You're looking at number 19, John Unitas, Baltimore Colts. By common consent, the greatest of contemporary professional football quarterbacks. Felled by a weird injury, really. Ruptured Achilles tendon. Occurred playing paddle tennis. Occurred 2 days before Easter last. Has seen but limited action this year. Hopes, of course, to see action tonight in the dream matchup, the Baltimore Colts against the Minnesota Vikings. What man better to ask to evaluate tonight's contest? John?
Well, Howard, it's going to be a battle of the front lines. Our front four has been coming on real well. Of course, Minnesota has been good over the past years. The defenses are basically similar. And the hard-charging front four, the defensive linebackers are real good on both teams. They get real good depth. And the secondary, of course, will be playing a lot of zone with the safety X's, the weak side X's, and so on. So it's going to be strictly up to the quarterbacks and how they read the zone defense and just where they throw the ball and try to pick the holes.
Their quarterback, Quazzo, understudied you 4 years ago at Baltimore, claims to know your zone. What impact?
Well, our zone is no different than theirs. He practiced against zone defenses all day long, day in and day out, just as we do at Baltimore. So it should be a good game.
Morrill, of course, starting. You desperately wanting to get in there. Do you think you'll see action?
That strictly is up to the coaches, their decision on whether or not to play me. It depends on how the ball game is going, I suppose, and just how they feel.
But you do desperately want to play.
Oh, I love to play regardless of who it's against, Howard.
15 seconds to air. Stand by, all cameras.
Ready with slow motion and isolated cameras.
Stand by, videotape, and roll tape.
And tape is rolling in less than 5, in 3, 2, 1.
Take tape.
Tonight's game from Metropolitan Stadium, Bloomington, Minnesota, matches the Baltimore Colts, led by quarterback Earl Morrill. Earl Morrill, the 16-year veteran from Michigan State, who has for a backup the incomparable Johnny Unitas. And there are Earl Morrill's statistics through 5 games. And the Minnesota Vikings, whose attack is directed by Gary Quazzo. Gary Quazzo, a former Baltimore Colt, now in his 9th year out of the University of Virginia. And there are Quazzo's statistics through 5 games. And NFL Monday Night Football is brought to you by Sears Tire and Auto Centers, where you'll find die-hard batteries and a complete line of quality tires. And by Ford, who invites you to see all the 72 better ideas at your Ford dealers.
Some of the crowd at Metropolitan Stadium. Good evening, everyone. I'm Howard Cosell. Welcome to still another Monday night of NFL football. This one needs absolutely no build-up. We think John Unitas put it succinctly and well. The 2 great front fours, the great core of linebackers, and the 2 respective quarterbacks trying to pick each other apart, in effect. And, of course, Baltimore at 4-1, defending Super Bowl champions, needing a victory tonight to move ahead again of challenging Miami in the Eastern Division of the American Football Conference. Minnesota dreaming of Super Bowl all over again, needing a victory tonight to stay ahead of still challenging Detroit and Chicago. To analyze the Baltimore offense, the Minnesota defense, that expert of football lore, Don Meredith.
Thank you, Howard. I think Baltimore actually has the edge in the offense tonight. Earl Morrill's leading a team that has a runner, Norm Boulash, who has missed 9 quarters this year, 1 full game, and 5 more quarters. And he's still leading the National Football Conference in rushing, averaging 7.1 every time he carries the ball. That's not a bad runner. He also has Tom Maddy, an experienced veteran back there. His main job is to control the football against the Minnesota defense. In my opinion, the number one thing tonight is, can the Minnesota front four put enough pressure on the running game of the Baltimore Colts and put a pressure on the passer, Earl Morrill. We talked to Earl Morrill earlier and Alan Page of the Minnesota Vikings. Let's see what Earl has to say.
Well, our plans tonight against the Minnesota Vikings, they have a tough front four, which everybody is aware of, and we're going to have to go at them. We hope to establish a running game, get Norm Bulash going, who's been doing a great job for us on the ground, Tom Matty, and then mix our passes in. If we can control the football and just play a steady game, make no mistakes, no interceptions, no fumbles, we feel that with our strong defense that we can stay right with them and go right down the wire, and we get points on the board, we'll come out ahead of them.
Well, the first thing I expect is that they'll come out and try to run on us because they have a very fine running back in Norm Bulash, and that's going to be our primary job, is to stop their running game. And I think from there we can work on the passing. I think if we can contain their running game, it'll make it that much easier to get to Morrill or Unitas, whoever's in there.
As you can tell by listening and watching to both of these two men, I don't think the game plan is any real secret, so we'll see how well each one of them can execute what they anticipate doing tonight. Now let's let Frank Gifford tell us about the Minnesota offense and the Baltimore defense.
Thank you, Don. And when you talk about the Baltimore defense, you're talking about a truly great football team. They've done amazing things this year. They've held 5 opponents to but 24 points. Their secondary has not given up 1 touchdown through the air. That's truly incredible. They offer a formidable opponent for Gary Quazzo. Gary Quazzo, who I mentioned a moment ago, is a former Baltimore Colt. He would like to show the nation, and show particularly the Baltimore Colts, that they made a mistake back in 1967 when they traded him to New Orleans. Defensively, well, Baltimore Colts have some great talent other than in their secondary. I think the keys are the safety men, Rick Volk, and also their fine tight safety, Jerry Logan. They have a great pass rush, and one of the key principles would be Bubba Smith. We talked to Bubba Smith, who will play in the middle and defensive left end, how he would play. We talked to Gary Quazzo and asked him his attack.
Basically, we'll try to attack the Baltimore zones in the what they call the seams or the creases. It's like a basketball defense. It's a zone defense. They play probably 90% of the time, and you have to hit what we call the dead spots. It's between the zone men. We'll try to cross men through the zones and hook men in the zones. They also play a zone defense where there are 5 men in the short zones and 2 men in the deep zones. Most teams don't play this. They use the 4 men short and 3 men deep. I think more than anything, we're going to try to keep Howard Cosell guessing.
2 years ago when we were down here, Coazo picked our zone apart. I think we got beat something like 54-12. And our thoughts on the whole thing is to not really give him enough time to do all of this. And if we can get a good pass rush on him, then I think we have a good chance of beating him.
You've heard from some of the principals. It promises to be a great football game, and we'll be ready for the start of the game after this message.
How do you put together a thoroughbred? You build from the ground up with super fat race tires for quickness, light chassis for handling, big motor for big muscle. That's how you come up with thoroughbreds like these. Brand new Aurora factory experimentals. AFX. Cars that take a little getting used to. You've got to get used to the way they accelerate when you hit the trigger, to the way they slow down when you let off. See, AFX cars don't just run around a track. You drive them with your pistol grip power stick. And when you get good enough, you race them. And AFX action doesn't let up, because your power pack plugs right into the wall. You can collect all the AFX cars, separately or in racing sets. AFX sets come with 2 cars, track, power equipment, from the model motoring division of Aurora. We're for real.
You and your car get along beautifully until you stop. But step on the gas again and you disagree. You want to go. Your car hesitates for the longest second in driving. If that hesitation is caused by poor fuel distribution, Esso may help. We've got 3 new efficiency gasolines with HTA. Try a couple of tankfuls. In a lot of cars, that may be all you need to overcome hesitation and end the longest second.
In memory of Chuck
And we are just about to observe a moment of silence in the memory of Chuck Hughes, who died yesterday, Chuck Hughes of the Detroit Lions.
And now the Viking Band, directed by Ralph Mendenhall, will play our national anthem, and Charles Wood will lead us in the singing. Let's all join in.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
And if we could, we would just like to express our sympathies to the family of Chuck Hughes, a truly gifted and great athlete who died yesterday on the field with the Detroit Lions against the Chicago Bears, dying of a heart attack. And we're just about ready to get underway. On the left to await the kickoff of Jim O'Brien is Clint Jones, number 26. Charlie West is number 40. Jim O'Brien, who has kicked 11 straight field goals, he is closing in on a record that's held by Jan Stenerud of 15. We'll be talking about that later. A very important football game for both of these ball clubs, and it's about to get underway. This one will carry into the end zone. Clint Jones will run it out. Jones over the 30. Jones back to the 43-yard line. Clint Jones coming out of the end zone. Hit there by Rex Kern. And Clint Jones has given the Minnesota Vikings fine field position. Quickly, we'll tell you the wide receivers for the Minnesota Vikings. Number 86 is Al Denson, replacing the injured Gene Washington. Bob Grimm is the flanker, now coming to the right. The tight end is Stu Voigt. The quarterback, Gary Quazzo. This is Bill Brown, one of his setbacks, being met at the line of scrimmage on the right side. Coming up hard, Jim Duncan from his right cornerback position. Ray May was there, number 56. Pickup of about a yard to the 45-yard line. Dave Osborne is Gary Quazzo's other setback as we look into their huddle. The line is Duck Davis at left tackle, 71. Ed White's the left guard, 62. Mick Tingeloff, 53, the center. Milt Sunday, the right guard. Ron Yeri, the right tackle. Second down and 8. The play fake. Quazzo looking for Osborne behind the screen, and he overthrows. And the screen was there. Ron Yeri out in front, along with Mick Tingeloff. Defensively now for the Baltimore Colts. Roy Hilton is the starting defensive tackle as we look at Bud Grant, the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. Freddie Miller, number 76, the right tackle. Billy Newsome, the left tackle, 81. Bubba Smith, the left defensive end. Big Bubba Smith, number 78. The secondary, Jim Duncan at the right cornerback, 35. Charlie Stoops, the left cornerback, number 47. The two safety men, Rick Volk, 21. Jerry Logan, 20. Third and 8. The ball resting at the 44-yard line of the Minnesota Vikings. To the left, Denson. To the right is Grimm. Both backs out of the backfield. Firing way downfield. Apparently intended for Stu Voigt, overthrown. So the Colts have held on their first series. As we look at Don McCafferty in his second year. Bob Lee comes out to do the punting for the Minnesota Vikings with a 39.9-yard average. Dropping deep for the Minnesota Vikings is Rick Volk. This is Bob Lee. Good high punter. This one off the side of his foot. Volk will still have to fair catch at the 21-yard line. Rick Volk with the fair catch at the 21. A 35-yard punt for Bob Lee. So the Baltimore Colts take over. Earl Morrill, as we told you, opens at quarterback. Ray Perkins is his flanker, number 27. Eddie Hinton, his wide receiver to the left, generally. Bob Vogel is the left tackle, 72. Glenn Ressler, 62, the left guard. Bill Curry, the center, 50. John Williams, the right guard, 75. Dan Sullivan, the right tackle, starting at tight end, number 84, Tom Mitchell. Tom Matty and Norm Bulash are the setbacks. Bulash, behind blocking, picks up perhaps 2 yards. Bulash. That at the line of scrimmage, Wally Hilgenberg was there.
Interesting that McCafferty has started Mitchell for the second week in a row. Mackey apparently well enough, despite a damaged elbow, to play again. Some thought that they'd want Mackey in there for blocking help for Sullivan against such as Carl Eller, but no, he's going with Tom Mitchell.
A pickup at 2. The ball is now on the 23-yard line of the Baltimore Colts. Second down and 8. In motion goes Perkins to the right. Bulash. Bulash moving for yardage. Met there by Paul Krause, the free safety. A pickup of almost 8 yards. We'll see how close it is to the first down, and it appears to be just short. Perhaps a foot. The ball just over the 30-yard line. And in will come the short yardage offense of the Baltimore Colts. Nottingham comes in at one back, and Mackey comes in as the other tight end. So Nottingham, Bulash, and Mackey as Perkins goes to the sideline. Who gets the call, and he gets the first down. Behind the block of Bill Curry and Glenn Ressler, the rest of that Minnesota defense, as the Colts pick up a first down on their own 34-yard line. Carl Eller, the left end, 81. Gary Larson, 77, the left tackle. Alan Page, 88, the right tackle. Jim Marshall, 70, the right defensive end. Carl Gersbach, replacing Lonnie Warwick, is at middle linebacker. He's number 56. Cornerbacks, Charlie West, number 40. Ed Schrockman, 45. First and 10, the Colts moving from their own 33-yard line. The play fake by Morrow. Looking for Matty, he has him. Kasalki out there to meet Morrow at about the 39-yard line. Or to meet Matty at the 39.
You notice, Frank, Mitchell's back in. He put Mackey in for that one play for the extra blocking help, as McCafferty saw it needed for the run for the first down.
Pickup of almost 6 yards by Tom Matty. Both of these teams like to use their backs coming out of the backfield. A very effective play. Both of them circling out of the backfield, working against the zone, looking for those open areas. Paul Krause is the free safety. For the Vikings, Carl Kasalki, the tight safety. On second down and 4, the ball from the 39-yard line of the Colts. To the right, Perkins, Hinton to the left. Morrill again with the play fake. Throws it out of bounds. Going again for Tom Matty. He wasn't there. So that will bring up third down, and it will also bring an awesome pass rush. Principally, we'll tell you that Dan Sullivan, the right tackle, has his job cut out for him tonight for the Baltimore Colts, going against Carl Eller. On the left side, Bob Vogel will be blocking against Jim Marshall. Glenn Ressler has to handle Alan Page, who many think is the finest member of this front four currently. Gary Larson will be up against John Williams at right guard. Third down and 4. The ball at the 39-yard line. Left is Hinton, right is Perkins. The draw play to Bulash. Bulash moving over the 50. Norm Bulash tripped up, going down to the 22-yard line of the Vikings.
It's unbelievable that you can give a fullback a draw. It was third down and 5 and still make that kind of yardage. It was great blocking up front. As everybody pointed out, the Vikings did expect the pass. A great call by Morrill. This Bulash is really something else. He's done just about everything they hoped he would do a year ago and even more this year. He has been hurt a little bit this year. You see him now. He's gone off 4 rushes already tonight for 54 yards. Give the ball to Boo.
Don Nottingham replaces Bulash. The ball at the 22-yard line. First and 10. Perkins motion right. This is Nottingham. Nottingham bouncing off Carl Gersbach. Finally being stopped there.
That
Jim
Nottingham
Marshall.
is funny, Frank. He's a kind of throwback to Charlie Toller in the early days of the Houston Oilers in the American Football League. I think it's been said many times he was the next to last draft choice, the 441st out of Kent State. He's surprised and delighted everybody connected with the Baltimore organization.
And Nottingham, a pickup of about 2. Second down and 8. The ball at the 19. The quick pass over the middle of Mitchell is no good. Picked off. Ball bouncing in the air. Carl Kasulke, I believe.
When you see interceptions, you hate to see them anyway, but especially when they go in and out of the hands of your offensive receivers. It's very unfortunate for Baltimore in this case because he did have the ball to Mitchell.
And NFL Monday Night Football, the Baltimore Colts versus the Minnesota Vikings continues from Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington with the score, Minnesota nothing, Baltimore nothing.
This is Ford's Pinto three-door runabout. Different where it counts. We finish Pinto with 5 coats of paint so it can fight off the salt air of Maine. And we made Pinto small enough for maneuvering through New York traffic. We designed Pinto to start easily on December mornings in Minnesota. We made Pinto roomy enough for tall Texas drivers. We gave Pinto the strength to climb the Rockies. Pinto was made to stop quickly in emergencies on Los Angeles freeways. And for windy days on the Golden Gate Bridge, we gave Pinto a wider track than the leading import. The Pinto three-door runabout. See it at your Ford dealers. Pinto, different where it counts. Another better idea from Ford.
Carl Kasulke of the Minnesota Vikings has just put a stop to a drive of the Baltimore Colts with an interception. The Minnesota Vikings now have the ball, 1st and 10 on their own 14-yard line. 9 minutes, 31 seconds remain to be played in the first quarter from Bloomington, Minnesota. Grimm to the left, Denson to the right. The setbacks are Brown and Osborne. Big Bubba stepping offside. The flag is down. Osborne is met at the line of scrimmage by Freddie Miller and Hendricks, number 83, Miller, 76. And it did appear as if the Baltimore Colts were drawn offside.
This is the interception that we had a while ago. You'll see that the ball was to Mitchell. Gersbach did a good job at middle linebacker because he was very close. He was in the area anyway. But it went in and out of Mitchell's hands, as you saw, and Kasulke did pick it up. I think that established a couple of things in that Baltimore drive. They can move the ball, and Bulash can run.
He can. He's the leading rusher in the American Football Conference, 420 yards. The Vikings now with 1st and 5, moving from their own 18-yard line. Bill Brown trying the middle of the line, and he runs into it. Billy Newsom was there, number 81, as Brown picks up about 3 yards. The ball now at the 23-yard line. 2nd down. Two great defensive teams with very capable offensive attacks that really take advantage of the breaks. On 2nd down, this is Gary Quazzo. He has Denson to the right against Stoops. Out to the left is Grimm. He works against Duncan. This is Brown following the block of Osborne. Up close to a 1st down. Appears to be somewhat short. No, it isn't. Bill Brown picks up the 1st down. Bill Brown really is making his 2nd start of the season. An 11-year veteran. Gained over 5,000 yards in his career, the 13th man ever to do it in the National Football League. The ball at the 24-yard line, 1st and 2. Out to the left rim, Denson to the right. The play fake by Quazzo. Looking for Grimm. Grimm in front of Duncan, incomplete. Number 35, Jimmy Duncan was there. What a load Bob Grimm has taken over in the past few weeks with the injury to Gene Washington.
The very key point to make, Frank. Grimm having a spectacular year. Washington troubled by a condition in the arch that prevents his freedom of movement. And indeed, the Vikings, not quite this year, the durable team of the past two, absent as they are of Jim Valone, Washington, Henderson, Beasley, and Warwick. More on that later.
2nd down and 10. The ball resting the 19-yard line. The 24-yard line, rather. And this is Osborne. Lined up, blocked by Ed White. Moving up quickly is Mike Curtis from his middle linebacking position, and there will be a loss in the play. Ted Hendricks was also there. A loss of 1. The ball now back to 23.5-yard line. 7 minutes, 38 seconds remain in the first quarter. It's scoreless here in Minnesota. Both teams needing a win this evening. The Vikings, if they lose, would fall back into a three-way tie in the Central Division of the NFC with Detroit and Chicago. Baltimore comes into this game tied with Miami in the Eastern Division of the AFC on 3rd and 11. Denson is left, Grimm to the wide side on the right. Osborne coming out of the backfield. It's intended for Osborne, and Mike Curtis almost picked it off. Mike Curtis almost had an interception.
There was much said in the pregame show by both sides about the zones played by both teams. One of the things that's pointed out about Baltimore is generally they always zone the wide side. And if you can notice which hash mark the ball is placed upon, you can expect Baltimore to zone to the wide side. And usually the attempt to throw to the backs coming out of the backfield is quite successful. However, Curtis covered that one very well.
This will be Bob Lee kicking on 4th down. Deep is Rick Vogt. And another short kick. And a missed signal back at deep back. Turned a poor kick into a good kick. Number 25, Tom Curtis, the short man, was not communicating with Rick Vogt. And NFL Monday Night Football, the Baltimore Colts versus the Minnesota Vikings continues from Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington with the score, Baltimore nothing, Minnesota nothing.
This is White Owl shade-grown wrapper tobacco. We grow it right here in the Connecticut Valley. We use this prime wrapper tobacco on our White Owl Invincible, Perfecto Special, Corona, Diplomat, and New Yorker cigars. It's just about the best wrapper tobacco in the world. But don't take my word for it. Compare our cigars to any other comparably priced cigars. I guess to really appreciate ours, you have to smoke theirs. White Owl, ours.
I'm shaving in this demolition derby car to prove how hard it is to nickel cut yourself with this new razor, the Easy Rider from Schick. You see, these protective bumps, along the guard bar, help to keep the blade from digging in. A safe, smooth shave. Right now, you can get this Easy Rider razor free when you buy this special pack of Schick Super Chromium blades. It's a good deal.
The Baltimore Colts, after letting a kick roll between their two safety men, Curtis and Vogt, have taken over possession 1st and 10. The ball at their own 19-yard line. Earl Morrow brings them up. Boulash back in the ball game, moving behind a block of Tom Maddie's. Pick up of perhaps 2 yards. This telecast is presented by authority of the Minnesota Vikings Football Club. It's intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the Minnesota Vikings Football Club and the National Football League is prohibited. And looking on, the greatest of them all, Johnny Unitas, 16-year career, 230 touchdown passes. And looking as Earl Morrow brings the Colts up. 2nd down and 8 yards to go from their own 21-yard line. Again, the draw play. Boulash met hard there. Wally Hilgenberg from his right linebacking position.
Minnesota closing in well on that draw on that particular play. You know, Baltimore's a team that makes very few mistakes, and we may be seeing the application of the tension and importance of this game even in the early going because Baltimore has already made 2 mistakes. The muff pass by Mitchell that Kasulki intercepted, and then as Frank called it, the mix-up on signals between the 2 would-be punt receivers, Vogt and Curtis.
We'll watch now as the Colts operate from their own 22-yard line on 3rd down. Perkins going in motion to the right. Hinton is out to the left. Both backs flooding out to the left end. Boyle's in trouble, but he gets away. Sherachman, and was he inbound? Yes, he was. Sherachman taking that ball away from Eddie Hinton.
3 critical mistakes within the first 10 minutes of the ball game. You don't usually see this done by Baltimore. Don?
Well, the only thing is you see that Earl got a great rush. Jim Marshall from the right side came in. He threw this one off balance, gave Sherachman time to play his receiver, head up, and he made a good move coming in front of Hinton. I would say if from a critical standpoint, which is tough to be critical because I know Earl was under a lot of pressure, but he threw that one a little bit late, a little hesitancy in his throw, and he was picked off.
So Edge Rockman, with his third interception of the season, has given the Vikings first and 10 from the 23. Sprinting out is Quazzo. Stu Boyd. Boyd inside the 10. Boyd to what appears to be the 2-yard line as Earl Morrill looks on.
This is so typical of the Vikings, the way they play, a patient game. Let the other team make the mistakes, get the good field position, then move right in. Now watch what happens to Mike Curtis, number 32 on this play.
He's coming across. Actually, Cavazzo's doing something that I think is pretty good. He's rolling out to get away from that rush that they have. Boyd just had a step on Curtis, and that's all there is to it. There were 2 missed tackles. It's Logan coming over from his safety position to protect against the score. They're on the 2-yard line now, and we'll see what they do.
Gary Quazzo has just completed that pass to Stu Boyd. Coming out to the right in the motion is Grimm. Osborne into the end zone. Dave Osborne for the touchdown. Vikings moving 27 yards in, but 2 plays. But big one, of course, that pass by Gary Quazzo to Stu Boyd to the 2-yard line. There he is, Dave Osborne.
A straight-off tackle shot. He gave the ball to Osborne. Osborne has been a clutch man for him all year. He goes after that goal line. Rick Bolt came up to try to put a stop on him and actually just slid by him.
Fred Cox is on for the conversion. Krause will hold. Cox drills it through the center. And with timeout, the score is the Minnesota Vikings 7, the Baltimore Colts nothing.
This car won at the rugged Baja 1000 without a single tire failure. A city taxi went over 70,000 miles on one set of tires. From a speed of 50 miles an hour, a car stops in 4.2 seconds. What makes these tires so special? They're Sears steel belted radials with flexible steel belts under the tread. Sears steel belted radial. Probably the best tire you'll ever drive on. Only at Sears.
The batteries in these cars have never been used. Watch. After 4.5 hours of steady drain, only one battery can start a car. The Sears Die-Hard outlasted all the other batteries. The Die-Hard starts your car when most batteries won't. Sold only at Sears.
Back at Metropolitan Stadium, Bloomington, Minnesota, the Vikings out in front of the Baltimore Colts, scoring after a turnover, as they have done so often. This is Fred Cox, who has scored in now 118 consecutive NFL games, and that is an NFL record. Deep for the Baltimore Colts, number 42, Charlie Pittman, number 23, Don McCulley. Cox with a long, booming kick. Pittman runs into the goalpost. The ball goes through the end zone, touchback.
A reminder that this Saturday on ABC will feature an outstanding football-baseball doubleheader beginning at 1:30 Eastern Daylight Time with NCAA football. Colorado against the number 1 ranked Nebraska Cornhuskers. What a beauty that should be. Then at 5 o'clock Eastern and Pacific, 4 o'clock Central Time on Wide World of Sports, the American League champion Baltimore Orioles take on the Japanese champion Tokyo Giants. We're back to live action.
The Colts with first and 10 from their own 20-yard line. To the left is Hinton. To the right, Perkins. This is Bulash. Bulash upended there. Number 29, Carl Kasulki, coming up.
We've got a
excuse me.
Sorry, Frankie. We've got a whale of a football game here, obviously, but a quick reminder to our viewers, you're going to see Jim McKay in the dugout with some inside stuff with Earl Weaver, the manager of the Beaten Birds in the World Series. And Weaver's an outspoken guy. We'll have some fun.
Second down now and 8. The ball at the 22-yard line. Earl Morrow firing out to the right side. This is Perkins. Perkins picking up the yardage for the first down over the 30-yard line to the 31. Roy Winston was over there, along with Charlie West, defending for the Minnesota Vikings. Ball now at the 31-yard line. Double flanker on the left side. Hinton and Perkins. Bulash over the 35. Paul Krause coming up. Alan Page, number 88, is there. Minnesota Vikings with the second leading defense in the American Football Conference coming into this weekend's play. They trailed only Washington as of yesterday. The statistics, of course, will be revised after tonight. The Baltimore Colts defensively lead all NFL teams. And now on offense, second down from the 35-yard line. Earl Morrall directing the attack. Again, the draw play, this time to Matty. A loss of perhaps a yard. Gary Larson, 77, is there.
One of the things that helps a draw like this is a good passing attack. That draw actually is not effective unless you can establish the pass. Earl has not really done that much on the passing game so far, but when he rolls out, as sometimes he does, cause the defense to shift with him, he can drop the ball into a halfback or a fullback, and he sometimes can make good gain up between the guard and the tackle. That time the Vikings were waiting on him.
On third down from the 35 of the Colts. Looking out on the flat. Bulash with the football, and look at him move. Bulash over the 50 into Viking territory, and can he run?
He has become some kind of player. I remember after the 1970 draft of Bulash in the first round, the late Vince Lombardi told Carol Rosenblum, the president of the Colts at the time, now the owner, his son is the president, that's the kind of courageous pick you win championships with, Lombardi said. You took a chance, it may pay off. Bulash had been susceptible to injuries at the college level, but everyone knew if he could stay whole, he could become a great one, and he has become just that.
The Colts with the 1st and 10. They're operating on the Minnesota Vikings 48. Nottingham has replaced Bulash. This is Hinton. Morrall to Hinton. Pickup of about 6 yards. Wally Hilgenberg is back there along with Ed Sharachman covering.
Here's Wally Hilgenberg, number 58, from his outside linebacker position. This pass is almost impossible to break up. Hilgenberg came out as quick as he could. Sharachman, 45, is in front of him. Now, unless they're in a zone and roll to that side, it's very difficult for a defensive halfback or a linebacker to break that pass up. Very effective.
Out to the right go both wide receivers on 2nd down and 3. This is Nottingham bouncing off. Nottingham, wow. Carl Kasaki made the tackle, but believe me, he felt it. Nottingham, 5'10" and 210 pounds.
A little butterball.
Carl Kasaki, the funniest man on the team here with the Minnesota Vikings. His wife actually is a senior year med student here. He manages the basketball team in off-season. That's not a bad. You can afford to be pretty funny if you got a wife that's senior in med school.
Alfred University is 6-0 because Meredith made the speech before the start of the season when he received his doctorate.
Glad you mentioned that, Howard. I was going to get to it a little bit later.
Nottingham picks up the 1st down. The ball at the 38-yard line of the Minnesota Vikings. Morrall attempting the screen. Big pressure by Carl Eller.
Big play by Eller, Frank. That screen was well set up. I can only see 2 Vikings in the area, and there's 1, 2, 3, 5 Colts over there. The idea is to bump Eller and then go out and set up the screen. They bumped him, but Eller is up there around 6'6", 6'7". We'll take a look at it here. You'll see a quick bump. Go out to set up. He comes in. It's got to be about 10 foot. Yeah, that's 12 feet up there. That cat's something else. Anyway, he knocked the ball down and prevented what could have been a big gain for the Colts.
They might have to change the blocking on the screen with Carl Eller involved. 2nd down now and 10. The ball at the 37 of the Vikings. To the right is Perkins. Hinton's to the left. Again, the draw attempt, and it goes nowhere. The bottom of the pile, Gary Larson, number 77. Alan Page was there.
I would say so far, Frank, that Earl failed to mention that his game plan was filled a great deal with draw plays. If my recollection doesn't fail me, I think that's the 6th attempt at a draw. It is a very effective play when properly set up. And that properly set up, I guess you maybe don't have to do it as much against some teams as other, but that's really to defeat the harem, scare 'em, let it all come pass rush, and these Vikings can really put a pass rush on you.
And you saw the clock tick off. That's the end of the first quarter with the score. The Minnesota Vikings 7, the Baltimore Colts nothing.
America. Merrill Lynch is bullish on America.
In the years ahead, we see America growing in many different ways, and we want you to share in America's growth. That's why we've moved into different kinds of investments, not just stocks, but bonds, mutual funds, real estate, and more. Merrill Lynch has a lot of different ways to put your money to work. America. Merrill Lynch is bullish on America.
I'm Dave Osborne of the Minnesota Vikings. This is my favorite kind of trip because I know what to expect on the way. Do you know what to expect from a trip on drugs?
As we begin the second quarter from Bloomington, Minnesota, the Colts trail the Minnesota Vikings 7-0. They have a third down, 11 to go. The ball is resting on the Vikings' 38-yard line. Hinton goes out to the left. Sharachman is out there. To the right is Perkins. He is covered there by Charlie West. Morrill on a straight drop back, sends Goulash out of the backfield. He's hit, gets away. A flag goes down. And Hinton has the ball at the 2-yard line, but a flag is down back at about the 48-yard line. They're calling it back. And it'll be walked off against the Baltimore Colts. Holding. And what a bad time to pick that call up.
Terrible time. Takes him out of field goal range. Fourth key Baltimore mistake. Very unlike the Colts.
Dan Sullivan is number 71. He's the offensive tackle that's blocking on Carl Eller. You'll see as Eller goes around him, Sullivan's right hand kind of hooks in a little bit right in there on his arm, and that flag comes in right behind him. Holding is a difficult call. You can almost isolate any play, and it appears that there's holding on every play.
Third down now and 26. The Colts operating from their own 47. This is Goulash getting away from Gersbach, tripped up over the 40-yard line. Carl Kasalki made the stop. Pickup of about 16 yards for Goulash. That will bring up fourth down. There are the statistics from the first quarter. Jim O'Brien has come onto the field, the hero of the Super Bowl of last year.
I think those statistics are very revealing as to the pattern of Minnesota play as we watch this field goal attempt. They're trailing in every statistical area, and yet they're ahead. One opportunity in.
From the 45-yard line, it'll be short. This is Charlie West at the 2-yard line. Charlie West back to the 20-yard line.
That was O'Brien's first miss of the season. He'd hit 11 in a row coming into tonight's game. 12 if you count that Super Bowl shot.
And with timeout, the score is the Minnesota Vikings 7, the Baltimore Colts nothing.
Here's a child whose father loves shaving so much, he won't let him in the bathroom. Look at him. What causes this? Only Schick Superchromium. It's so comfortable you'll actually look forward to your next shave.
Your boots need polishing. Sorry, sir. Your buckle needs shining. Sorry, sir. And you need a shave.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. What makes the soldier so happy? Only Schick Superchromium. It's so comfortable you'll actually look forward to your next shave.
Esso asks, does your car suffer from hesitation? For instance, when you really give it the gas, does your engine seem to sag momentarily? That's hesitation. Or does it ever feel like gusts of wind are hitting you head on when there isn't any wind at all? Esso has now improved all three of its gasolines. These improved gasolines can help eliminate the cause of hesitation, and that can result in smooth performance and good mileage.
You'll see, you look over in the corner of your screen, this is a timer we have. This is expected for every kick to be off no later than 1.2 or 3 seconds. This one was off in 0.9 seconds, I guess you'd say. So he had plenty of time to kick this one. The kick was just short. It seemed to be a fairly good hole. These things happen. That's why they're misses, and that's why we appreciate the ones that hit.
And Jim O'Brien had 11 consecutive field goals until that miss. The Vikings now 1st and 10. They're on their own 20-yard line. Grimm is left. Up the middle goes Bill Brown. He's met there by the middle of that Colt defensive line. 81. Billy Newsom was there. Minnesota offensive line has some problems in the middle of the line. Mick Tinglehoff has been suffering from a pulled hamstring. He played last week against Green Bay, as did Milt Sunday, who has a bruised knee. But they're both giving it a go tonight. This is the big one. Pick up about a yard for Brown. The ball now at the 21, 2nd down and 9. Gary Quazzo calling the signals. Quazzo dropping straight back. Looking for Benson.
Beautiful throw.
Benson.
Sweet Nine, they call him here. And actually, I guess he got that name in Denver. They ask him why. You'll see Quazzo come back from the end zone shot. Quazzo has excellent form as quarterbacks go. He sets up good, steps toward that receiver, releases before he makes the turn. That ball is right on target. You saw Denson run a sideline route. Sweet Nine, he got the name because he said, I used to average at least 9 touchdowns a year when I was with Denver.
As a matter of fact, he caught 250 passes in 7 years with Denver. A good, fine receiver. 1st and 10. The Vikings moving. They have the ball at their own 36.5-yard line. Quazzo again, trying to get the screen off to Brown. Brown gets the football, but Hendricks gets Brown. And this is some football player, number 83, 6'7", 230 pounds, and he has 3 interceptions thus far as a linebacker. Well, he's hard to throw over, wouldn't you say, Don?
Yeah, let's take a look at him again. 6'7". What he's doing is reading the keys back. Here's man is Brown, and you can see him, and you'll see Brown come into the picture. He made a good move. Actually, it's a good attempt to block him out in front. The offensive guard, number 64, Milt Sunday. Hendricks just played over him and got Brown by one arm, brought him down.
A loss of 6 yards. 2nd down now and 16. This is Osborne. The flag is down to the middle of the line of scrimmage. Osborne moving up to the 40. The flag is down, as is a Baltimore Colt at the line of scrimmage. And the Colt on the ground is Freddie Miller.
You saw Osborne come kind of slashing through there, and Coach Bud Grant's not noted for a lot of his comical quotes, but this one I appreciated quite a bit. They call him Ozzy. He says, you know, he's got a clumping, kind of slashing, running style. Says you might not be able to see him, but you can always hear him coming. For Bud, I thought that's pretty good.
In NFL Monday Night Football, the Baltimore Colts versus the Minnesota Vikings continues from Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington with the score, the Vikings 7, the Colts nothing.
It's true.
You can take a quiet break in the 72 Ford LTD.
But Ford gives you more than just quiet. It gives you Quiet Plus. For one thing, brakes built on the same principle as the big jets. Disc brakes, developed by the aircraft industry to stop today's faster, more powerful jets without pulling to the left or right, no matter how wet the weather. At Ford, we took the disc brake principle out of the sky and put it on the road. Designed then to help give you straighter, surer stops.
The fact is, Ford was the first American manufacturer to give you standard power front disc brakes. The Ford LTD, where quiet and better engineering come together to give you a better value car.
For 72, take a quiet break in a Ford LTD at your Ford dealers. Quiet Plus, another better idea from Ford.
This is Freddie Miller, who was shaken up on that last play. Freddie Miller, the 9-year veteran defensive tackle, as a holding call was called against the Minnesota Vikings. Ed White was detected holding.
Well, as we await the resumption of action, another quick reminder, there's a blockbuster of talent on the Dick Cavett Show. Singer Shirley Bassey and actor Donald Sutherland join Dick and his great guest tomorrow night at 11:30, 10:30 Central Time here on ABC. And that Shirley Bassey is your kind of singer, Don.
She sure is.
I
That
think
Don Sutherland's your kind of singer, Howard.
I think she's everyone's kind of singer. The Vikings now from their own 15. They have 2nd down and 32. Jim Bailey has replaced Miller at right tackle, number 79. Wazo going all the way, directing the attack. Bill Brown is hit before he almost has the football. And that was Jim Bailey who made the tackle on Brown. And I'd say he was in there.
So he was in there, too.
At front four now, the Baltimore Colts. Hilton at right end, Bubba Smith at left end, Newsom and Bailey at the tackles. Third down and 32.
11 of the 12 players on the defensive Baltimore team were acquired by way of the draft. It's the way to build.
Osborne getting just over the 20-yard line. Pickup of about 7.
I said 12 players because Bailey and Newsom split the defensive tackle assignment. Bailey from Kansas, Newsom from Grambling.
You see Osborne going off there. He's from Candu, North Dakota. Population is 1,566. Actually, just a little bit outside of Candu. When he grew up in grade school, they didn't play football. They didn't have but four guys in the whole school. Undoubtedly, he was voted most likely to succeed.
Bobley getting it off. Rick Volk will have time for the return. Volk over the 50, and he's really smashed. Getting down there quickly, Carl Winfrey, 38-yard punt, a 10-yard return. The Colts again moving into Viking territory. Bud Grant on the sidelines. And with timeout, the score, the Minnesota Vikings 7, the Baltimore Colts nothing.
What kind of tires can drive down a snow-covered mountain? Dig in and stop fast on hard-packed snow. Or with studs, even stop on glare ice. The answer? Sears Dynaglass Ice and Snow Tires with the deep traction groove down the center. They go in snow, stop in snow, stop on ice. Dynaglass Ice and Snow Tires for front and rear wheels. Only at Sears.
Neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night stays the diehard from the swift completion of its appointed starts. The Sears Diehard, with extra power to start your car when most batteries won't. Sold only at Sears.
And now stand by for a special ABC News report from the United Nations covering the vote on the admission of Red China.
The United Nations tonight rejected a move by the United States to require a two-thirds majority vote for any attempt to expel nationalist China from the UN. The vote was 54 in favor, 59 against, 15 abstentions. That means that Communist China can and will be admitted by a simple majority vote of the Assembly, perhaps within minutes from now. It represents a defeat for the United States after many weeks of quiet behind-the-scenes diplomacy to persuade the UN to hold a place for Taiwan after the Peking delegates are admitted as representatives of China. It is an upset because the friends of nationalist China, including the United States, today believed they had earlier a certain victory. We will be back with a vote on the main resolution on expelling nationalist China and admitting the communists as soon as it takes place. This is John McVeigh, ABC News, United Nations.
Back at Bloomington, Minnesota, Metropolitan Stadium, we missed one down, an attempted pass from Earl Morrow to Perkins. Incomplete. It is now second down and 10. The Colts with the football. And this is Bulash. Bulash in the arms of Jim Marshall. And boy, is he hard to bring down.
Frank, I noticed Gary Quazzo has an ice bag on his right wrist sitting on the bench, and one has to wonder what that means.
Well, we shall see. In reserve for the Minnesota Vikings, of course, is Norm Snead. Pickup of 7 yards by Norm Bulash. The ball now on the Vikings' 42-yard line. Third down, make it a long 3. And against the Vikings, you would have to say a passing down. But Earl Morrill has shown several draws this evening on the passing down. Perkins now comes motion right. Both backs circling out of the backfield. This goes to Matty. Matty very close to the first down. You saw the mark on the opposite side of the field. We'll see if he picked it up. Don, the Colts have been bringing both those backs out of that backfield almost in every pass, either in a flood or in a circle pattern.
All right, the measurement for the first down. In the meantime, let's tell the viewers that Freddie Miller, number 76, defensive lineman of the Colts, has a pinched nerve in his neck and probably will not see action again tonight. Miller, but one of two men on the defensive unit who is over 30 years of age. At the top of the show, Frank told you that Baltimore is considered by many to be an elderly team, but indeed they are not. The statistics prove otherwise.
And you saw how close. I'll tell you, as the officials bring the yard markers in, marking this very closely, that next week we have another great football game coming up, the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers from Milwaukee. And they don't necessarily like each other.
It's fourth down, Frank, and the Colts are going to go for it.
Ray Perkins has gone out. Mackey has come in for the additional blocking string. Bulash and Matty. Matty gets the call behind Bulash. He hurdles the line, getting almost to the 36. Plenty of yardage for the first down. Tom Matty does a little bit of everything for the Baltimore Colts.
Just going to say, Frank, so often it happens when you start talking about Bulash, you seem to forget about a guy named Tom Matty who has really been this. Watch the effort that Matty has. He's been called a lot of things, garbage runners and so forth else. But I'll tell you one thing, he's a heck of a football player. And this is what the kind of guy you want to give it to on a fourth down in a short situation, or really any situation, because he'll give you everything he's got.
First down now from the Colts. They're on the Vikings 36. Matty again. Hurdling down to the 25-yard line is Matty. Kosolki's there for the stop.
Both these clubs do a lot of razzmatazz. They reverse, double reverse, fake the reverse and throw. Jim Marshall, you may have seen your screen, was waiting for that reverse over there that they did fake to Perkins as he came back behind Matty.
And while we see another measurement, I can tell you on this, the last day of trading, that Joe Dawkins went from Houston to Denver in a trade for Dickie Post. First down, as you saw.
Both running backs, of course, in that trade. Dickie Post, who started at San Diego and used to be a very highly regarded back, suddenly becoming a much traveled one. Joe Dawkins, out of Wisconsin, his rookie year a year ago, showed high promise. In one game against Cleveland, ran for over 100 yards.
All right, Baltimore with the 1st and 10. They're on the Vikings' 25.5-yard line. Both wide receivers, Perkins and Hinton, go to the left. Bulash banging for yardage, a pickup of about 3. Tripped up at the line of scrimmage by Wally Hilgenberg. Paul Krause made sure. Number 22, pickup of 2. 16 rushing plays for the Baltimore Colts, and they're averaging 5.6 per carry. This against the Minnesota Vikings' great defense. And they have controlled the game offensively, yet they trailed 7-0. 8 minutes and 54 seconds remain to be played in the first half. Hinton to the left, Perkins to the right. Bulash, Matty, the setbacks. Again, Matty out of the backfield. This one fired to the tight end, Mitchell. Mitchell to the 13 or 14-yard line. Battling there with Carl Kosolki. Another first down.
It's a nice luxury, isn't it, Don, to have a tight end tandem like Mitchell and Mackey?
That's not bad, I'll tell you. Especially when you're playing zone defensive teams, because ordinarily those are the receivers that get most of the work. So much talk about zones and so forth, but supposedly those are the guys that are least covered in a zone.
The ball resting at the 13-yard line of the Minnesota Vikings. Hinton goes out to the left. Perkins is in the slot. Mitchell is on the right side. Bulash fighting inside the 10-yard line of the Vikings.
It's that ability to change directions right in the middle of the stream, so to speak, that makes great runners. Bulash, I don't think, actually ended up exactly where that play was intended. He was going off tackle, saw that one was pretty well stacked up, and in some way made his way back into the middle and picked up some yardage.
Find the daylight.
Let's coin that phrase.
There's a guy here tonight, number 63 from the old Green Bay Packers, Fuzzy Thurston, the great pulling running guard. He could tell you about it, leading the way to it.
On 2nd and 6 from the 9, both wide receivers to the left. Tom Matty behind Bulash, inside the 5-yard line. An ABC Sports exclusive coverage of NFL Monday Night Football pauses 5 seconds for station identification. Back with the Baltimore Colts, a 3rd and 1.
And the viewers will notice the way Baltimore has been running against this Minnesota team. Indeed, much the same way that Detroit tried to, and for a time did so successfully in our opening Monday night game of the season.
And you see the Colts lining up with 5 men. They call it their meat grinder. Nelson is in at one guard. They go to the weak side. This is Matty. Matty tripped up at the line of scrimmage. Sharachman coming up from the cornerback spot to make a key stop.
It's really tempting when a back, especially on a short yardage or a goal line play, when he sees that outside, you think it's open. But it's really not, because these people are playing to the outside. We'll see it again. You'll see Matty come to his left. A lot of blue shirts in the middle there, a purple shirt. Hildebert almost gets him. Comes around. Sirachman is the one that comes up.
And on 4th down, head coach John McCafferty will go for the first down. 6 minutes and 11 seconds remain in the first half. The Colts trail 7-0. The ball at just about the 5-yard line. Matty will throw the football, or try to throw the football. Incomplete in the end zone. Touchback. The Vikings have held.
I'll tell you something about McCafferty. He's got guts. He lays himself open to the second guess. Most of you football fans around the country, that was an 11-play drive, incidentally, that failed. He left himself open to the big second guess in the Super Bowl game last year. Remember Frank Dunn, when just before the end of the half, he didn't go for the field goal, passed it up?
That's right.
They call him Easy Rider because of the manner with which he
See it again. It's plays like this that they work. They're just spectacular calls the next day, but you'll see the Vikings had that one pretty well covered.
That was big Carl Eller in the end zone. How he got there, I don't know. Quazzo on 1st and 10 from the 20. Stu Voigt. Voigt to the 35 to the 36-yard line. Stu Voigt, the big tight end.
Don talked about using the tight end against the zone, remarked on how he's the best man to throw it to, the one least covered, and each quarterback is proving that. That's the second time that very effectively Quazzo has hit Voigt. The first time set up the only touchdown of the game for Minnesota.
1st and 10 for the Vikings. They're on their own 35-yard line. Grimm to the right, Jensen to the left. Flag is down as Oscar Reed moves into Colt territory, but a flag is down at the line of scrimmage.
It appears that they called a holding penalty, Frank. I think it was the first indication I saw from the referee. Oscar Reed has not played much tonight. Just came in. He has a quick burst of speed and hit that hole. Picked up a nice gain. Unfortunately, it's going to be rubbed out by a penalty, and I believe it is going to be a holding penalty.
Golden Wheels Reed. But what an abrupt transition in pace. Baltimore dominating the play, really, throughout the entire first half. And yet, look at that. 31 offensive plays to 16. Baltimore in ball control, and yet Minnesota, as always, playing its patient game, availing itself of Baltimore mistakes, capitalizing for the one touchdown thus far.
First down, 24 yards for the first down. The Vikings operating from their 22-yard line. This is Osborne scrambling, as he always does, over the 25 to about the 26.5-yard line. Osborne, much like Tom Matty, he can do it all. Roy Hilton there in on the stop, the defensive right end for the Colts. Terry Quazzo ascertaining the situation. 4 minutes, 55 seconds with the clock moving. That's in the first half. The Colts trailing the Vikings 7-0. On second down, now on 18. Oscar Reed. Ray May turns the block back, makes Reed cut back inside to the pursuit. No gain. A loss of about a yard. You saw a good linebacking play on the part of Ray May. Stepped across, made Reed turn back into that pursuit.
As Frank mentioned in the opening of the show, Bubba Smith on that particular defense was playing right over the center. It was an odd man line by the Baltimore Colts. And when he's over in the middle of that line, he can pretty well stack it up. He, on his pursuit, actually helped make that tackle.
Grady Alderman has come in, perhaps with a play. He replaces Davis at left tackle.
Third and long situation, Frank, is really a tough one to throw against his own defense because they just don't like to give up that long play.
Both backs out of the backfield. This goes to Denson. Denson will be short of the first down at the 41-yard line.
Whole idea of the zone, let's protect against the bomb. Let's keep them back in there. We'll force a punt.
Denson was brought over because Minnesota wanted more speed in its wide receivers. And it was thought at the start of the year that he might replace Bob Grimm. Then Gene Washington got the injury, and you see where Denson is playing. As Frank noted earlier, he's been a good receiver for a lot of years.
This is Bob Lee, averaging tonight, as you see, 40.3. Deep is Rick Vogt. High kick. Vogt signals for the fair catch at the 21.
You know, one of the most important events in pro football history came about in 1920 when the National Football League was organized. The complete histories of the NFL and the other leagues that challenge the NFL are told in colorful and graphic display in the new Leagues and Champions Room of the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. This is just one of many outstanding exhibitions at the rapidly growing Pro Grid Showplace. It's open daily, the Pro Hall of Fame, 9 to 5 throughout the year.
The Colts with the football again at their own 21.5-yard line. 1st and 10. Earl Morrall looking deep. Finds Perkins in the gap between the zone. Perkins out of bounds at the 44-yard line. And Morrall continues to flood the zone, looking for the open man.
Here's Ray Perkins again. What you can't see is that Earl Morrall is going out. You saw 29 Kasalki get tripped up with his linebacker there. He's playing the short zone. That's Shirachman, 45, coming up to make the tackle. He had the deep zone. As Frank pointed out, it was right in between these two guys. The linebacker is supposed to be in that area.
Earl Morrall now 8 for 13 and 81 yards, but they still are not on the scoreboard. The ball now 1st and 10 on their own 44-yard line. This is Matty running behind Williams. Up over the 50 is Tom Matty.
We are seeing a tough, well-played game tonight. It may not be spectacularly played, but that's only because the caliber, the quality of the respective opponents is so high. And you're going to see a lot of exciting action, we think, at halftime, too, especially in that game yesterday between the Washington Redskins and the Kansas City Chiefs. That and other exciting action on at halftime.
The Colts moving into Viking territory have a 2nd and 2 at the Vikings 48. And a flag goes down as Matty goes down. Matty. Roy Winston was there for the stop. And again, a flag down at the line of scrimmage. We'll wait for the official call. Referee Jim Tunney. Offsides, Minnesota. That yardage good enough for a first down. The 3rd penalty tonight against Minnesota. 1st and 10 now for Baltimore. They're on the Vikings' 42-yard line. Again, that formation that puts both wide receivers to the left. Now Perkins comes back to the right side, the wide side of the field. Again, both backs out of the backfield. Bulash, one-hander, and Bulash is really hit by Wally Hilgenberg. I like this football player. He knew he was going to get popped, and yet he still held on to it.
Made a heck of a catch. One-arm stab of that ball, a little bit high.
Wait till the viewers see the one-hand catch by Otis Taylor for Kansas City in the waning moments to win yesterday's game against Washington.
Take a look at it again. Here is Bulash. He comes out, and man, he's plastered right there pretty good.
And with timeout, the score, the Minnesota Vikings 7, the Baltimore Colts nothing.
Man in the Neanderthal period, the Cro-Magnon period, and the all-wet period. Note the slick-down hair. Today, of course, the look is dry and natural. So command was created to hold without looking wet or oily. Blue label for normal hair, silver for stubborn, and red with natural grooming conditioners. Oh, command Tahitian lime antiperspirant to help keep modern man dry, period.
Don, bring up 205, please, will you? 205, a 10 Galaxy.
Would you take a blue Torino?
205, please. 205.
How about a red Pinto? Tell him it's cheaper.
205, Don. Don, forget 205. They'll take the Pinto.
Have you ever wondered why everybody doesn't offer 32 different kinds of cars?
Don McCafferty, who has just conferred with quarterback Earl Morrall. The situation, 2 minutes remain to be played in the halftime. The Colts trailing the Minnesota Vikings 7-0. Second down, 9 yards. The Colts with the football on the Vikings' 41-yard line. Mackey is in the football game. Willie Richardson is in at one flanker, replacing Perkins. Hinton left, Richardson right, Mackey and Mitchell are the tight end. One setback. Fired out to Mackey.
You saw the Vikings blitz that time. It was an unusual formation, as you pointed out, Frank. They only had one running back in there, both tight ends and two wide receivers. A lot of teams do this. When they see an unusual formation, they'll blitz it. You see Mackey going out now, and Tom Matty coming back in. Highly unusual for Minnesota to blitz. They, like Baltimore, would rather play a little bit safer, let that front four put most of the pressure on the passer.
The ball on the Vikings' 35-yard line, third down, a long 3. Hinton to the left. Morrow, straight drop back. Sends Matty out. Matty has the football.
Great catch.
Great catch by Tom Matty. Yardage for the first down to the 28-yard line.
You used the word before. They called him a garbage player at one time in his career, Don, but he is some all-purpose football player and provided, I think, the league with some of its most memorable moments the year he took over as quarterback and almost carried the Colts to the championship.
I remember it very well. We played Baltimore. The Dallas Cowboys played Baltimore in what is now the defunct playoff or runner-up bowl in Miami, and Unitas was not going to play, and we failed to realize that, because they beat us something like 35-3, and Tom Matty had a heck of a day.
All right, 1st and 10 now for the Baltimore Colts. The football on the 28-yard line. Matty is out. The single setback formation again. Fired deep. It'll be picked off by Sherachman. Hit Sherachman, and he should have stayed in the end zone.
You know what, though? It was tempting. When he looked back up there, he saw 3 of his players and a lot of room to run, but he didn't see Tom Mitchell coming in from the backside. That ball was poorly thrown.
Yes, the old rule is you don't throw deep into the zone. Right, Donald?
That's the way they did up in Pound Ridge. All right, you'll see Morrow coming back, and he is throwing deep, and he overthrew Mitchell. Mitchell was on a crossing pattern. Sherachman, who picked that one off, I don't know, man. Possibly he should have stayed in the end zone. It's hard to tell from up here, I guarantee you.
I'll tell you, no, possibly he should have stayed there. The Vikings have all their timeouts remaining. They have it 1 minute and 14 remaining. They could get on the scoreboard again, but Sherachman, who now has intercepted 5 passes on the year, 2 tonight, the Vikings with 3 interceptions tonight. They'll start from their own 4-yard line. Handoff. Oscar Reed. Pickup of about 4 yards. Reed moving behind the block of Ed White. Doug Davis.
Getting back to that not throwing deep into the zone, Don. Stram was queried about it last year because Dawson was connecting with Otis Taylor, if you'll remember. The answer there was, as I think we pointed out, they had young backs in that Steelers secondary who weren't completely experienced enough nor attuned to playing the rotating zones with the kind of efficiency that the seasoned Minnesota defense manifests. By the way, they got the largest crowd in the history of Metropolitan Stadium here tonight, 49,784. Still another reminder that Saturday on ABC, a football-baseball doubleheader beginning at 1:30 Eastern Daylight Time. NCAA football, Colorado against the number 1 ranked Nebraska Cornhuskers. After that, the Baltimore Orioles take on the Japanese champion Tokyo Giants from Tokyo, Japan. And, of course, the International Cross Country Motorcycle Championship from Sweden. Remember, I said Jim McKay will be talking in the dugout with Earl Weaver, and maybe we'll find out what really happened in the World Series.
I wonder if Jim McKay can speak Japanese.
If he can't, nobody can.
All right. Our situation, 46 seconds remain to be played in the first half. The Vikings with the football. They're on their own 8-yard line. They have taken one of their timeouts. Gary Quazzo has gone to the bench conferring with his head coach, Bud Grant. Jerry Logan, the defensive captain of the Colts, had a little chit-chat with Don McCafferty, his coach. We'll see what is produced. 2nd down and 8. Oscar Reed running well. Reed over the 20, battling. Oscar Reed tackled there by Jerry Logan. Yardage for the first down. Clock is moving. Quazzo has not indicated he wants to stop it at this point. We have told you he has 2 timeouts remaining.
Let's watch a trap play. You'll see the guard, I believe it's Sunday, that's coming out to block on number 85, who's Roy Hilton. And that opened it up pretty well in there. They also got a good block on Ray May, number 56. Actually, they made several good games on that side of the line. Here they go live.
from the 21-yard line on first down. Reed again carrying the ball. The seconds clicking off on the clock. The Vikings playing it very cautiously. And that's the end of the first half with the score, the Vikings 7, the Baltimore Colts nothing.
This is a totally different kind of razor blade. It makes shaving easy. Now, I wouldn't dare do this with an ordinary blade, but Wilkinson has reinvented the razor blade, the bonded blade. Bonded permanently at the precise shaving angle and exposure. But don't do it this way. Use the handle that comes with it. It's even easier. Safer, too. The Wilkinson Bonded Shaving System. It makes shaving easy.
Getting onto the freeway at rush hour is a challenge if your car has this problem. Step on the gas and it stumbles, falters. That's called hesitation. In real cars, it may be caused by poor fuel distribution. If it is, you may get help from Esso. 3 new efficiency gasolines with HTA. Try a couple of tankfuls. For a lot of cars, that's all you may need to overcome hesitation and help you meet the freeway challenge.
The Mod Squad looks into a dune buggy tragedy tomorrow night on ABC.
And that was a good evidence. Howard Cosell, along with Don Meredith and Frank Gifford, live at Metropolitan Stadium, Bloomington, Minnesota. Halftime just underway. Record crowd all time here in the great Twin Cities area. 49,784 people. Minnesota opportunistically leading by a score of 7-0. Right there you see all the first half scoring. It came in the first period after an interception by Schrockman set it up, then a pass to Stu Voigt, and then the 2-yard run by Osborne. 4 minutes and 32 seconds remaining in the period to play. Minnesota leading 7-0, but an oddball game dominated substantially, as you can see from the statistics in front of you, by the Baltimore Colts. Nonetheless, this is Bud Grant football. Let the other team make the mistakes. Baltimore had 3 interceptions, a punt return mix-up, a key holding penalty. And so Baltimore is trailing. Now, as always, we go to our NFL halftime highlights as selected by the producers of this show. The Oakland Alameda County Coliseum, the exhortation, go get 'em Raiders, and Oakland is doing just that to Cincinnati. 4:09 left in the first quarter. The Raiders leading 3-0. LaMonica throwing to Raymond Chester, the brilliant tight end from Morgan State. Quickly it becomes Oakland 10, Cincinnati nothing. What an athlete Raymond Chester is. Just a second-year man already, one of the best tight ends in the National Football League. Now, you're watching Kenny Anderson. We're in the third quarter. It's Oakland 17, Cincinnati nothing. The short pitch to Essex Johnson, as you saw. Essex bursting downfield with his great speed and shiftiness, and it becomes 17-7 Oakland. We're still in the third quarter. It's now 17-10. Horst Muhlman has kicked a field goal. Watch Kenny Anderson, the rookie quarterback from Augustana. He gets in. He's in for the touchdown, and it's a brand new ball game. Oakland 17, Cincinnati 17. This is fourth quarter action. 9 minutes remaining, and the game has been entrusted to Father Time, George Blandon. He throws to Marv Hubbard, number 44. The young man from Colgate goes in for the touchdown. Oakland reassumes command, 24-17 over Cincinnati. It's still, of course, the fourth quarter, 7:25 remaining. Watch Kenny Anderson. He's rolling left. He is going to flip a 4-yard pass to Speedy Thomas, and the Bengals have tied it up again, 24-24. It seems that annually favored Oakland has trouble with Cincinnati. But watch, again, 3 minutes remaining. And now, incredibly, Blanda has done it again. He has pitched to Clarence Davis, who goes on that sweep for 27 yards. Oakland at the moment is trailing Cincinnati by 3, believe it or not. There's the handoff to Marv Hubbard. Hubbard's in for the score. Oakland 31, Cincinnati 27. Oh, I never thought I'd see this scene. Nick Skorich and Lou Saban, the respective coaches of Cleveland and Denver, an old feud between the two teams, and a surprising day for Cleveland, heavily favored. Watch this punt by Denver. This is action late in the game that will give you a perspective on the game. Leroy Kelly, number 44. with a brilliant return. Notice the way he loped down that right sideline, a little bit in the fashion of Jimmy Brown in his prime. Finally downed after a 74-yard jaunt to the Denver 8. Cleveland was penalized back to the 25, and the purpose of all of that was to show you that that was Cleveland's longest penetration of the day, because here you see second quarter action as Bobby Anderson ran in 6 yards for a touchdown to give Denver a 14-0 lead over hapless and futile Cleveland. Here's Cleveland, still in the second quarter, trailing 14-0. Bill Nelson pitching a pass, picked off by Forsberg, the linebacker, and he will run unmolested for the touchdown, virtually unmolested, one missed tackle, and then a veritable push-in. 27-0 in a tremendous upset, Denver over Cleveland.
Wherever you find race drivers, you'll find the racer's edge. Because they know nothing protects vital engine parts better than STP oil treatment. And millions of motorists just like you use STP. Because STP keeps their family cars running smoother, cooler, quieter, longer.
STP is the racer's edge.
Unfortunately, your new 1972 Winter is almost ready for delivery. Fortunately, a new Firestone tire that will change the way you feel about winter driving is ready for delivery now. Firestone stops you cold, starts you cold, helps you steer your way through winter weather. New Firestone asymmetrical town and country tires. The winter tire with 3 separate treads. An open traction section to help you start or stop. Center Z-bars for stability and mileage. A stable traction section to help your steering control. Adding up to a wide tread that holds 1/3 more ice-gripping studs than any tire we've made before. These new tires are designed for front wheels, too, to give you even more steering and stopping control on ice. Winter always has a few surprises for you. This year, get Firestone asymmetrical town and country tires from your Firestone dealer or store, and you'll have a few surprises for winter.
Tiger Stadium, Detroit, Michigan. The Lions coming out onto the field to face the Chicago Bears in a game that was ultimately to produce the terrible tragedy of Chuck Hughes. This is first quarter action. The Bears trailing 3-0, but Don Shai taking the handoff from Southpaw quarterback Bobby Douglas, bursting 21 yards for the touchdown, and the Bears lead it 7-3. No thought at this time of what was to occur later. Second quarter action, 13-15 remaining. Chicago leading 7-6. Bobby Douglas throwing long to George Farmer. Farmer taking the ball and going in all by himself. The Bears now leading 14-6 over the Lions. This margin was short-lived. This is the very next kickoff. Mac Percival kicking off for the Bears. The ball taken by Ron Jesse. And can this youngster go? He broke one earlier. Excellent downfield blocking. Jesse pours on the speed. He goes 102 yards for the touchdown. And quickly the score is lessened to 14-13 in favor of Chicago. We are still in the second quarter. Now Detroit is leading 20-14. The Southpaw again, Bobby Douglas. His coach moved in with him to prepare him for this game, and it seems to have worked. The quick touchdown popper to Bob Wallace, and Chicago leads 21-20 over Detroit. This is the last play of the third quarter. Detroit has reassumed the lead 23-21. Greg Landry, the Detroit quarterback, drops back. You must watch this play closely. The ball is tipped by Doug Buffone, tipped away, intercepted by Jimmy Gunn. Now watch this. Lateral to Charlie Ford, who stumbles over a fallen now defending Lion, picks up very little additional yardage, but the scene is set for fourth quarter action. And with only 4 minutes and 4 seconds gone, Bobby Douglas keeps it, goes in for the score. The Bears win 28-23, but the whole game washed away because of the loss of Chuck Hughes. Kansas City Chiefs Municipal Stadium, Kansas City, the big game of Sunday. The Redskins, the surprise team in football. There's no score at this point. Lenny Dawson passing. The ball intercepted by Pat Fisher, the diminutive defensive man of the Redskins. Watch Pat go all the way down to the Kansas City 4. On the very next play, Bill Kilmer, a tremendous surprise this year, playing superbly well, flips for the touchdown to Charlie Taylor. Washington 7, Kansas City nothing. We pick up the action with the score now 10-6 Washington, and you saw that ball pop up. Charlie Taylor grab it again, and this young man was once a running back, as you know, a simply superb football player. Washington springs to a 17-6 lead. Dawson is trying to come back. The score now is 20-13. We're in the fourth quarter. Dawson hitting Elmo Wright, the speedster from the University of Houston, and the Kansas City Chiefs are on their way. This is just 3 plays later. Dawson again. Back. The pass blocking fine, as you can see. The pitch. And it's Elmo Wright for the touchdown, the jig of delight, and suddenly it's 20-20. We have only 3:59 remaining in the game. Lenny Dawson again. What a year Len is having. Who else but Otis Taylor, number 89 from Prairie View, A&M, with a brilliant one-hand catch, and the Kansas City Chiefs have beaten the Redskins 27-20, the first Redskin loss of the year, but George Allen's men have proved they're for real.
And here at Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington, Minnesota, we have another fine football game going. The Baltimore Colts dominating on the ground, but they trail the Minnesota Vikings 7-0. And NFL Monday Night Football, the Baltimore Colts versus the Minnesota Vikings, is being brought to you by Ford. We invite you to see all the 72 better ideas at your Ford dealers. And by Firestone. The name that's known is Firestone, where the rubber meets the road. And by Flair, the new kind of pen that writes more than words. Flair writes feelings. Flair now in 12 dramatic colors. And we'll be ready for the second half kickoff between the Colts and the Vikings after this word from our local stations.
Doug McClure and Darren McGavin star in the movie of the week tomorrow night on ABC.
The Baltimore Colts, the number 1 defensive team in all of football, are that again this evening, but they are unable to get on the scoreboard. They trail the Minnesota Vikings at halftime 7-0, and we're getting ready to get the second half underway. The Vikings got onto the scoreboard after an interception by Carl Kasulke from the 2-yard line. Dave Osborne fighting and scrambling. Gets into the end zone behind excellent blocking. On the sidelines, Don McCafferty, now in his second year as a rookie head coach. After 21 years as an assistant, as a rookie head coach, he won the Super Bowl. Those great 5 seconds. And Jim O'Brien booted that 32-yard field goal to beat the Dallas Cowboys. Don McCafferty, as I mentioned earlier, they call the Easy Rider because of his easy approach to this game. These Colt players really like this man. They perform for this man. Again, the billing. I don't know about the billing. And you too, Howard.
Yep, you guys fixed me good. You blame me for calling Snead in the game the first time we did the Vikings.
Just going to tell it like it is, Howard.
That's the way to do it, Dan.
Just tell it like it is.
This is Fred Cox. Deep. For the Colts, 42, Charlie Pittman, and number 23, Don McCulley. Pittman at the top of your screen. There is McCulley, the number 1 draft pick from North Carolina for the Baltimore Colts. Second half underway. This will be Pitt. Charlie Pittman moves over the 35-yard line, driven out of bounds there. Bobby Bryant, number 20, puts the tackle on Charlie Pittman.
He's an interesting player, Pittman. Out of Penn State. Let's have another look at this. Started with the St. Louis Cardinals, was only activated a week or so ago by the Colts after they picked him up from the Cardinals. Charlie Pittman telling me today, Don, that he thinks Penn State can play anybody, including Oklahoma and Nebraska.
On the same day?
Maybe. The Colts, 1st and 10 from the 31-yard line. Goulash, he's met by number 81, Carl Eller.
I believe the Vikings worked on that play at halftime.
Goulash and Tom Matty are the setbacks. Earl Morrill going all the way. Ed Hitton, one wide receiver, 33. Perkins, the other, number 27. Defensively, for the Minnesota Vikings, that front four, Marshall, Page, Larson, and Eller. Wally Hilgenberg, Carl Gersbach, replacing the injured Lonnie Warwick, as he have for the past 4 football games at middle linebacker. Roy Winston, the left linebacker. A loss of about a foot. 2nd down, 10.5 yards. Out to Eddie Hinton, almost picked off. Sherachman almost picked off his 3rd of the night.
Eddie, that could have been the crusher for the evening.
You get a look at the roll to that side, and the Minnesota Vikings and the Colts, I might add, hide that zone beautifully. The key for the quarterback is to be able to read the zone, what kind of zone it will be, hit the holes that are open, sending backs into the gaps of that zone, and both of these teams hide it, well, almost to perfection. 3rd down now, 10.5 yards. Out to the right is Perkins. Hinton out to the left. Both backs coming out of the backfield, looking for the opening. The pitch to Mitchell. Mitchell over the 40-yard line, tripped up there by Winston. Coming to rest at about the 41.5-yard line. It'll be 4th down.
Oh, this is a lively crowd. They know their club needs this victory. They know the way their team plays, and the Baltimore team knows very well that if they lose tonight, Miami assumes first place in the Eastern Division of the American Football Conference. A lot at stake in this.
David Lee comes on to do the punting on 4th down. Deep, Charlie West. Number 40, number 20, Bobby Bryant. High, booming kick. Fair catch by Bobby Bryant at the 24-yard line. 31-yard punt. In NFL Monday Night Football, the Baltimore Colts versus the Minnesota Vikings continues from Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington with the score. The Vikings 7, the Colts nothing.
Flair writes with absolute silence, total smoothness. Flair's rich, vivid line can be fine or bold at your discretion. Flair has a smooth, tough nylon point that stays sharp. Flair won't dry out because the cap seals with a distinctive click. Flair, the new way to write. Now in dramatic colors. Flair.
This is a revolutionary new shaving system from Gillette. To shave you close, we put in our finest blade. And then, to shave you even closer, we put in another one. Gillette introduces the world's first razor with 2 separate blades, the new Gillette Track 2. 2 blades. To get whisker, 1 blade could miss. The new Gillette Track 2 twin blade shaving system. It's 1 blade better than whatever you're using now.
The Minnesota Vikings, their first possession in the second half. They'll begin their operation from the 28-yard line. 1st and 10. Denson goes out to the right, Grimm to the left. Grady Alderman is a lone replacement offensively at left tackle. Raza with the play fake, holding the football. He has Reed in the middle of the field. Oscar Reed bouncing off tacklers, moving to the Colt 45-yard line, make it the 46. And that's why they send those backs out, Don, to find those holes.
All right, let's watch the zone work this time. You'll see the safeties coming back into the strong side. This is very close to a double zone. You see both safeties going deep to protect their halfbacks. The receiver coming right down the middle, number 32, is wide open. Now, there's not a safety in there. This is one of the flaws that we pointed out of the zone. We apologize if we keep saying this is a zone and this is a zone and what are they doing. The basic difference between zone is that they cover areas rather than man for man. We'll try to get to that more a little later, as Howard would say.
All right, on 1st and 10, the Colts being drawn offside.
Obviously, that wasn't offside. Let me just continue one thing else. That there are so many different type zones that possibly we should try to maybe inform you a little bit better exactly what we are talking about. But a basic zone is when they roll up to the strong side or where the flanker is, the flanker and the tight end. They'll roll up where the strong side halfback will cover an area. The safety The strong side safety will try to cover deep behind that halfback. The weak side safety primarily will cover the middle area, but it does leave the halfback over on the split end, basically in a man-to-man coverage.
The offside penalty against the Colts, 5 yards. First and 5 now for the Vikings on the Colt 42-yard line. Quazzo back again. Going deep for Denson. Denson that time working against Charlie Stooks man for man. And that's what you get when you roll to the flanker side. You often get the man-for-man coverage on the weak side. Denson that time on the weak side.
Well, I'm going to try one more time, just a little bit of something else. What I saw was number 20, Logan, who was the strong safety that time, come up in what is referred to as a safety zone. And he covered an area which it did leave Stooks man-to-man over there, or deep all the way. But again, he's in an area situation. He knows that Logan, by going into the short zone of that side, does cover that short area.
The draw play to Osborne. Osborne moving close to the first down. He has it. Ray May moving over to make the stop. But the Vikings coming to life here in the third period, leading the Baltimore Colts 7-0. No scoring at all in the second period.
One thing is sure, if they have to set... All right, let's look at that again. You see Osborne on that draw play getting the first down. If they have to go for a field goal, they'll go. They're not going to pass it up. That election to pass up the field goal in the first half by Baltimore could be very important.
Gene Washing into the game and a split end for the Vikings. First and 10. Oscar Reed into the middle of the line. Pickup of maybe 2 yards. Down at the bottom of the pile, Jim Bailey, who replaced the injured Fred Miller in the second period. Jim Bailey, a second-year man out of Kansas. Second down now and 8. We'll tell you again, Gene Washington, who has not played much this year, is in the game replacing Denson. Gene Washington, who has been over the past few years so much a part of the Minnesota Vikings offense. Washington on the short side left, Grimm the flanker to the right on second down and 8. Pazzo is buried. Bubba Smith. Big Bubba Smith and Ron Yeri, who is blocking on Bubba Smith. Well, you just can't keep him out of there all night. He's something else. 6'8", 265.
Big play. Baltimore defensively is thinking, get him out of field goal range. Look at Bubba burst through, and that was it for Gary.
Bubba took an inside move that time. You'll see that he, with his hands, kind of threw Yeri to the outside. I'm not for sure, but I expect Bubba has been using an outside rush most of the evening, and that's what most defensive ends do use to protect that outside sweep or containment when the quarterback tries to roll out of the pocket.
A tough third down and 15. The ball at the 42. Quazzo back. Firing for Voigt.
Right on the money, and a good catch by Voigt.
Voigt, the tight end, again looking for that little gap. It's a dangerous pass, but Quazzo put it in
Here it is again.
beautifully.
Let's watch these defensive secondary men. Again, going into a strong side zone. You'll see Voigt coming out, number 83. He's man for man on the linebacker. He has a couple of steps on him, and the ball is thrown perfectly. The safety actually responsibility is not him man for man.
A beautiful shot of the zone.
That's exactly what Quazzo told you at the top of the show he was going to do, and beautifully thrown because he threw it over the angle of Ted Hendricks.
He certainly did.
The Vikings now have first and 10. They're on the Colts' 23-yard line. Grimm to the right, Washington to the left, Quazzo back again. Quazzo buried again, and
Bubba did it again. He came in from another position this time, though, Frank. This is what, again, you mentioned earlier in the telecast. You'll see Bubba lined up on the center this time. Again, those huge hands, and gosh, he can move for a big guy. Sweeping to the outside. Tingelhoff is blocking on him, man for man, and also, as Frank mentioned, he's a little bit handicapped tonight. He can't move. He has a sore foot, sore ankle. And that's the pressure that Bubba talked about at the top of this show, too. He said, we've got to get to him. Put the pressure on the passer.
And you're right to point out the pulled hamstring that Tingelhoff has been laboring under. But remember, Tingelhoff was victimized by a stacked defense, Buck Buchanan, in the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
Back to live action. The ball from the 31-yard line. Reed on the draw play goes nowhere on second down. 9 minutes and 19 seconds remain to be played in the third quarter, and the clock is running. There are some rather impressive statistics for Bubba Smith.
We'll give you another shot of Bubba. Slow motion. You'll see that. Look at that left hand right up the side of Yerry's head. That's legal. I'm telling you, imagine that guy weighs about 265, 75 pounds. Whoop. Right side of the head. That'll get your attention.
Third down now and 20. Osborne running inside. The Vikings obviously being careful, looking for the field goal. Getting field position. Osborne inside the 25 to about the 24, and out comes Fred Cox. Rick Polk made the tackle, but obviously Gary Quazzo, ascertaining what kind of a football game he is in, was not going to risk a long pass on 3rd and 15. Fred Cox comes on. He'll attempt to make it 10-0 Vikings. As you see, he led the NFL in scoring. He's scored now in
117 straight. Isn't that wild? 117 straight games. Let's see what he does. He did it again.
Fred Cox, a 32-yard field goal. And NFL Monday Night Football, the Baltimore Colts versus the Minnesota Vikings, continues from Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington with the score: the Vikings 10, the Colts nothing.
Today's automobile question is, what is a master cylinder?
The master cylinder in an automobile. Yes, I didn't know there was a master cylinder in an automobile.
It's got to be big. And it performs a very important function. It probably goes up and down like a piston, something like that.
I don't know. I don't know what it is.
That's the one that takes care of all the other cylinders and keeps them going at the right rates and things like that.
I have no idea. Is it in the car?
A lot of intelligent people don't know much about mechanical things and don't care. For them, Ford designed Maverick to be trouble-free and easy to service. Of 31 American cars surveyed by Popular Mechanics magazine since Maverick's introduction, Maverick has had the highest percentage of owners reporting no mechanical troubles. Standard 6, V8, in 2-door, 4-door, and sporty grabber models. Maverick, America's favorite compact at your Ford dealers.
All right, we'll watch it again, and again, watch the clock in the right-hand corner. And again, that kick was about 1.2. And as I mentioned earlier, anything over 1.3 or 0.4, you're getting pretty dangerous because those offensive linemen really can't expect them to hold those big guys out forever. That kick, the trajectory of the ball is not going to be that high as it comes up off the ground. I hope we can show this same time sequence on the quarterbacks, on their drop and their release. We'll talk about the different length of time that quarterbacks have to throw different type of passes as the game goes on.
And Fred Cox has put the Vikings out in front of the Colts, 10-0. Kicking off. Charlie Pittman, the lone deep man in the end zone, muffs the football, and he better get his hands on it. He does. That football is live on the kickoff. So the Colts now down by 10.
Don't forget, next Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Detroit Lions against the Green Bay Packers from Milwaukee County Stadium. Two old rivals in the Central Division, the black and blue division of the NFC.
All right, the Colts from their own 20-yard line. 7 minutes and 57 seconds remain in the third quarter. Morrow dropping deep. Hitting Bulash on a delay out of the backfield. This another good play against the zone. Roy Winston was there to make the stop. Pickup of about 6. It'll be 2nd and 4. Ball just over the 25-yard line, and here's Johnny Unitas looking on. What an incredible performer he's been since 1956.
Wonder what he's thinking now.
He does not have the jacket on. Off, not warming up. On 2nd and 4 now for Earl Morrow, going all the way. Bulash over the 30, close to the first down. Big Bulash. Gary Larson getting up. Wally Hilgenberg, number 58, getting up. First down. And if I could, I'd just like to take this moment on behalf of all of ABC Sports to express our sympathies to our colleague, Chris Schenkel, who over the weekend lost his mother. One of the truly great people in our stable, Chris Schenkel. Toss goes to Bulash. Hilgenberg is there. Ed Schrockman came up to turn it in. Loss of about 2.
You'd think, actually, that, of course, I know Earl, as he stated earlier, would like to keep this ball on the ground, but we're getting into the final stages of the third quarter, or in the tail end of the third quarter. I think we have to see him put it in the air a little bit more, and again, he is taking the chance, of course, of the interceptions. The Vikings already have 3 tonight.
The ball resting just about the 28.5-yard line. Second down, and we'll call it 12. Wide receivers both to the left. Now Perkins comes motion right. Morrow sending backs out of the backfield. Ooh, wow. Carl Eller, 81. Carl Eller beating the block of Dan Sullivan.
That's what they love in Bloomington, Minnesota, Twin City country. Just let the purple gang get to the passer. Watch Carl Eller. And Sullivan trying to hold him out. Unable to do so. Eller right over him. That's the outside rush that Dandy described earlier. Magnificently executed by Carl Eller.
Also might be pointed out, Howard, that was a screenplay that was called. Sullivan is the only man on this side of the line that is responsible for his man all the way. The rest of them bump and go out and set up in front of the screen.
On third down and 21, the ball at the 20. The prevent defense by the Vikings. Jeff Wright is in. Matty with the completion, but he will pick up only 5 of the necessary 21. Roy Winston for the stop. Fourth down, and the Vikings have held again.
Yes, indeed. And the clock runs. 5:12 left in the third quarter. 5:10, 5:9, and so on down. And while there's a lot of game time left, it's not an easy thing to catch up to Minnesota once they've assumed control. 7 points is a lot different from 10.
David Lee to punt to number 20. Bobby Bryant and number 40, Charlie West. High, wobbly kick. Charlie West will have time to run. And does he attract a lot of white jerseys? West getting just back to the 40-yard line. A 39-yard punt by Lee. In NFL Monday Night Football, the Baltimore Colts versus the Minnesota Vikings continues from Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington with the score, the Vikings 10, the Colts nothing.
We're back, driving home the same point about anti-leak Zerex antifreeze. It stops most common radiator leaks, just like that. Follow directions. Flush a dirty cooling system first. Zerex guarantees you complete satisfaction for a full year, or write DuPont for your money back. Anti-leak Zerex, guaranteed not to run out on you.
Now's the time to make sure you've got the kind of tire you need to go this winter. And look at what you've got going for you with Firestone's Town & Country Snow Tire. Now's the time to buy Town & Country's at your Firestone dealers. Beat the snow sale. Buy one Town & Country at the regular exchange price. And you get the second Town & Country at half price. All sizes, black or white stripe. Use your Bank AmeriCard, MasterCharge, or Firestone Unicharge. Firestone, the mileage specialist.
Lots of pensive, perhaps even disconsolate John Unitas trying to exhort his teammates on the defense to wrest the ball away from Minnesota, about to undertake first down play on their own 39. You have to wonder what John's thinking. You have to wonder if he feels were he in there, he could begin to get through that Minnesota defense.
Those yardies would translate into 21 miles. The Vikings, first and 10 from their 39-yard line. Washington is out, Denson back in. This is Osborne. Osborne ducking outside. Battling up to the 45-yard line is Dave Osborne.
Again, an excellent example of being able to adjust and go outside. The hole was closed. He was designed to go off tackle at Bubba. You never know for sure. There is a play they call a collapse block where the guard will come out and try to block on an end like Bubba. And instead of trying to knock him out, he lets Bubba push him on in. They go outside of him. I don't know whether that's what that was or not.
Pickup of 6. The ball at the 44, second down and 4. Osborne gets the call again. Scrambling to about the 48-yard line. Ray May, number 56. Milt Sunday, number 64 for the Vikings out in front. Third down, we'll call it a long one. Out will go Denson. Doug Davis comes in to give added blocking strength. I'd like to run into that in a dark alley somewhere. Big football player.
Road open daylight, just be careful.
You know, he's why people run to daylight. Bubba Smith on a third and a long one. Well, I don't know.
I don't believe they got close. I don't think so.
Did not make it.
Ted Hendricks did a good job from his linebacker position. He came in there and did a good job.
Well, I'll tell you, I was slow in the identification, but I am shocked. On a third and a long one, they give the ball to their flanker, Bob Grimm, who is in that stacked eye when you have Dave Osborne and Oscar Reed. Fourth down. Bob Lee to do the punting. Rick Volk is deep. Off the side of the foot. And Tom Curtis handles the football. Jim Lindsay is there for the stop. The Colts will take over, 1st and 10 on their own 27-yard line.
Well, Pete, Link, and Julie search for a hidden supply of dynamite after a mysterious explosion kills a driver at a dune buggy rally on the Mod Squad tomorrow at 7:30, 6:30 Central Time on ABC.
The Colts from their 27-yard line, trailing by 10. Perkins, and Perkins was really popped. Carl Kasulke unloaded on Perkins, and Perkins could not hold on to the football. Again, Earl Morrow sending three receivers into one zone, hitting the open man.
You see Earl back up, trying to loft it over West's head. He does get it there, and Kasulke is the number one sole responsible for knocking that one loose because he hit him about the same time the ball did. It's asking a lot to get a guy to hold on to a ball like that.
Second down and 10. Ball remains at the 27. Perkins to the right. Morrow going to Bulash. Bulash scrambling for yardage for the first down. Gersbach was there. He could not stop Bulash. Bulash is limping off. Bulash limping to the sidelines. First down, Baltimore Colts. They trail by 10. 2:14 remain to be played in the third period. The ball at the 39-yard line, and there's Bulash on the sidelines.
He has a problem that,
Nottingham replaces Bulash. Nottingham up over the 45-yard line.
That little guy is fun to watch, you know, Don?
Yeah, he really is a heck of a football player. I was going to say about Norm Bulash, most of his injuries have occurred in his legs. He, something problem that I certainly never had during Unitas. You look at those legs, but Bulash has extremely muscular legs. They're very susceptible to pulls, especially on a damp, cold kind of evening, such as it is here in Minnesota.
Second down and 7. The ball at the 41. Matty through the middle of the line, behind the block of Bill Curry. Glenn Ressler. He'll be close to the first down. Bulash would be quite a loss. We've told you several times that he came into this game and remains after yesterday the leading runner in the American Football Conference with over 420 yards.
The early diagnosis passed along to us, Frank, on Big Boo is a muscle spasm or a cramp in the left ankle. And as you said, if Big Boo is out for any length of time, it's a big problem.
The first down, as you saw indicated, the ball resting at the 49-yard line of the Baltimore Colts. A minute and 20 seconds remain in the third quarter. Willie Richardson is in at the closed flanker. Morrill dropping straight back. Drops the football. The blitz was on. Hilgenberg came with the blitz. Morrill dropped the football. Picked it up. But a big loss. Gary Larson also in there pressuring.
A team like Minnesota can lull you to sleep because they do blitz so very seldom. But you don't expect it when they do come. Hulkenberg was not even touched, I don't believe, on that
Not
last
even
play.
touched, and they have a habit, don't they, Don, of making the big play. Earlier, it was Eller.
You can say a lot of funny football jargon and do whatever you want to, but usually the best teams win.
Boulash back in the ball game. Second down, 21. Fired incomplete. A flag is down at the line of scrimmage. Baltimore in the third quarter with only 15 net yards gained. Earl Morrow.
He's not happy right now. Things have not really gone well this second half. I think it was pointed out by Howard at the close of the half that Baltimore more or less dominated the first half play here, statistically anyway. But Minnesota has come back extremely strong defensively, as we expected. They've done fairly well at controlling the ball, some on offense, too. But it's very frustrating for a quarterback. It's now second down men and a long way to go. And you're playing a containing type team. You never know what is the right call, what is the best thing. The worst thing you can do is have a turnover in this situation. So you have to be, I don't know how you can be, but you should be maybe cautious, at the same time aware of the fact that you got 2 downs to pick up something like 40 yards or something like that.
Second down and 36. Jeff Wright is the 5th man in the prevent defense of the Vikings. Out of the lineup is Gersbach. Earl Morrow. Willie Richardson. Richardson over the 35 to the 38. Carl Kasalki is again there. Roy Winston, big number 60.
You talk about defense, which both of these teams excel at. We're going to get a chance to view college defense at its best level when we see number 1 ranked Nebraska this Saturday, Don, against Colorado. Right here on ABC. Did I say Colorado?
I think so.
That's right.
Eddie Crowther's got a fine football team there.
And a lad named Branch who can really break the long one, some kick runner.
Third and 21, a 3-man rush by the Vikings. They're in their prevent defense. 2 linebackers dropping off 5 secondary men. Morrow, I think he wants a fair catch out of this one. Charlie West defending against Willie Richardson. As the clock ticks off, the Colts completely frustrated here in the third quarter. And that's the end of the third quarter with the score. The Vikings 10, the Colts nothing. We'll return after this word from our local stations.
Anthony Quinn stars in The Man in the City, Wednesday night on ABC.
I'm Gene Washington of the Minnesota Vikings. When it's time to turn on, I do it my own way. Can you turn on without drugs?
We begin the fourth quarter with a Baltimore kick. David Lee back to punt. Deep are Bryant and West. High, booming kick. This is West. Over the 20, and he's nailed at the 25.
A quick word about West and the kind of man and Coach Bud Grant is. You just saw West on the prior defensive play knock down that long pass Morrow threw. West had a hard time of it a week ago against Green Bay. Bobby Bryant came in to replace him, number 20. Bryant played very well, but Grant will not forsake a player. And he came right back with Charlie West as a regular in the defensive secondary tonight. I mention this because Don and I have had a lot of fun kidding Bud Grant, but he is some kind of coach and some kind of man.
From the 24-yard line, the Minnesota Vikings, possession here at the start of the fourth period. Both teams offsides, flags are down. Oscar Reed is down. We'll wait for that call to determine if perhaps the Colts were drawn offside. The indication appears to be against the Vikings. Discussion with the acting captain on defense for the Colts. Number 20, Jerry Logan. Bubba Smith, number 78, getting involved. And the walk-off.
Quick offsides. You see number 64, Sunday, as he moves in a little bit quick there.
There are the stats. A little misleading because Baltimore was able to move the ball freely in the first half. They just could not get on the scoreboard. Osborne did get in the first quarter from 2 yards out for the Vikings. And then Cox hit on a 32-yard field goal. First down and 15 for the Vikings, moving from their own 19-yard line. Quazzo going all the way, has Boyd open. Off the fingertips of Stu Boyd. Sometimes you get that kind of coverage in a zone, double coverage on both wide receivers trying to cover the tight end with a linebacker.
You also never know for sure, Frank, and I think it's not fair for us to make a judgment, but you see Quazzo throwing. It looks like a lot of things could happen. Maybe somebody missed an assignment. You never know. Maybe the offensive guy just made a good move and got open. Again, was the ball overthrown? Did he underrun it? The game is basically, I think, played to be enjoyed any way you want to enjoy it.
Osborne on 2nd and 15. Upset for a loss of 2. John Hilton has replaced Stu Boyd at tight end. Billy Newsom in on that tackle of Osborne. It'll be 3rd down now and 15. 2 great defensive clubs battling here at Bloomington, Minnesota.
Last time the Colts were shut out, Frank, was December 5, 1965, 13-0 at the hands of the Bears.
From their own 17-yard line, Gary Quazzo dropping, sending both backs again out of the backfield. Quazzo just at the line of scrimmage. Stooks had flattened Denson. So the Vikings will have to give the football over to...
And they score. The scoreboard clock speaks for itself.
Looks like a lot of time, but as I said earlier, not against a team like Minnesota. If Baltimore's going to start to move back into this game, they've got to virtually do it now.
Rick Volk is deep to accept the kick of Bob Lee. Booming kick by Lee. This is Volk from his own 40. Good coverage. Oscar Reed on good coverage. 36-yard punt. And with timeout, the score, the Vikings 10, the Colts nothing.
Some love cola so much they can't stop drinking it. And for them, there's RC. With RC, you get a great cola taste that's easy on the syrup, easy on the gas. So it doesn't feel like too much. Right, OJ? RC. A great cola taste that's easy on the syrup, easy on the gas. For people like O.J. Simpson, who can't stop drinking cola.
Be an old smoothie, be an old softy. Your beard's like putty in the hands of a cream like me. I'm a rich shave cream, #1 shave cream. I'll shave you clean and close, try and see.
Gillette Foamy, you sure shave me clean and close. Now I'm an old smoothie.
Lemon lime,
menthol,
surf spray, regular foamy.
13 minutes and 23 seconds remain to be played from Metropolitan Stadium, Bloomington, Minnesota. A crucial game for both the Vikings and the Colts. The Vikings must win to stay ahead of both Detroit and Chicago. The Colts, with a loss, would fall behind Miami in the AFC's Eastern Division. The Colts with the football from their own 43-yard line. This is Matty, moving behind the blocks of Wrestler. Just back to the line of scrimmage, maybe a pickup of a yard. Hey, Gary Larson. They call him the policeman in that Minnesota front four. He remains at the line of scrimmage and then just floats along with the play.
He is a good one. The other three are more known for their heavy pass rush. And as you said, Larson does have a way of staying right there at that line of scrimmage and picking up what's left.
2nd and 9.
The attempt to Matty was deflected. I believe that was Eller again.
Yes, indeed. Just a great player. The passing years apparently do nothing to diminish his effectiveness.
Earl Morrill, he has his receivers. Eddie Hinton, number 33. Ray Perkins is his other wide receiver in a passing situation, 3rd and 9 from his own 44-yard line. His setbacks, Tom Matty, Norm Boulash. Defensively, the Vikings remain intact. Charlie West, one cornerback. Ed Schrottman, the other cornerback. Pressure. Fires over the middle and is almost picked off. Almost picked off there by Paul Krause, coming up from his free safety spot. The pass intended for John Mackey. And the Colts, again, cannot move the football against these Vikings.
Krause has a very interesting statement. He says, we're going to take a look at the zone defense. Paul Krause, number 22, is the safety in the middle there. They're trying to beat the zone. Krause says you have to have more than reaction to play a defensive safety. You have to have anticipation. He says the thing I try to do is fool the quarterback. Let him think that I'm out of position and then make a move. And that's certainly what he did that time. Didn't quite hold on to the interception.
High short kick by David Lee. Bryant with the fair catch at the 20. 36-yard kick by David Lee. An NFL Monday Night Football, the Baltimore Colts versus the Minnesota Vikings, continues from Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington with the score, the Vikings 10, the Colts nothing.
What would you say if some college kids asked to borrow your car for 100,000 miles? We said yes to the auto tech class at Chaffey College, California, and they drove a Ford Pinto with optional 2-liter engine and disc brakes night and day for 100,000 miles. They did their own servicing and repairs and formed their own opinions.
The Pinto's rack and pinion steering is really solid, and there's hardly any body roll at all in the car. I'm really surprised that the car this light has the response that it does. It really accelerates. It's really a lot of fun to drive. It's really a tight car.
The brakes were very good considering all the mileage, and no maintenance was ever performed on them.
It's got real tight steering and handles easy on turns. Pinto has real good acceleration, and it keeps up with everything else on the road.
You won't need 100,000 miles to know Pinto's different where it counts. Once around the block, we'll show you. Test drive a Pinto at your Ford dealers.
On the sidelines, John Unitas begins to warm up. The Baltimore Colts have been unable to move effectively at all in the second half. They trail 10-0. 12 minutes, 36 seconds remain. And the living legend is warming that right arm up. Minnesota has a 1st and 10 on their own 19-yard line. Gary Quazzo calling a fine football game against the number 1 defensive team in the NFL. Gene Washington is now in a one-wide receiver, along with Bob Grimm. Oscar Reed gets the call up the middle, moving over the 22 to about the 23. What can you say? He holds just about every passing record there is. The one that is really impressive when you think about it, over 21 miles in yardage that right arm has produced.
Mount Vernon to Sulphur Springs.
The man who used to back up Johnny Unitas, Gary Quazzo, now at the helm of the Minnesota Vikings. He has a 2nd and 7. The ball on the Vikings' 23-yard line. Washington to the right, Grimm to the left. The blitz is on. Hendricks. And when you continually send those backs out of the backfield, you are going to get in trouble.
There's also a rollout pattern that time, Frank, and I don't believe Quazzo really had any way of seeing that coming, unless he read it prior to the snap, which sometimes you can. Obviously, he didn't that time. It's a big play for Baltimore. Now it's 3rd and long, and they are down in a very vulnerable situation where an interception would certainly turn this game around in a hurry.
11 minutes and 39 seconds with the clock moving remain to be played. To remind you again, the Colts are down 10-0. The ball is on the 14-yard line, 3rd down and 15 for Gary Quazzo. Grimm right, Washington left. Careful football as Osborne gets the call, a pickup of 5. Quazzo calling a very heady game with a 10-0 lead. Mike Curtis moving over to make that tackle. It'll be 4th and 10. Bob Lee will come on to do the punting. And again, the Colts should get possession with pretty good field position.
Pretty close to midfield, it looks like.
And we don't know for sure whether we'll see Unitas or not. He has been warming up. This is Bob Lee. 36.3 yard average, but he's been kicking them high. Rick Volk is deep, along with Curtis. Tom Curtis will handle this just inside of Baltimore territory at the 48-yard line.
There's the man.
I'll tell you, it's not a very comfortable position to come into.
Not at all. 10:39 left.
Interesting to see if Johnny usually does when he comes off the bench. He's either run a draw play or a running play right into the line, just to make sure, as you mentioned earlier, Don, that he'll keep that defensive front four of Minnesota honest. They'd like to get to him right quickly if they could. On 1st and 10, Johnny Unitas from the 48. The running play. Matty.
And that's his man that he's used so often, Frank, and that's Unitas and Matty have teamed up on a lot of clever pass receptions and it's also some good runs. Picked up about 8 yards, 7 yards on that play.
Carl Kasalki, who made that stop, now has 7 tackles on the evening. And he's played a fine football game. 1 interception.
He sure has. He can wind up with the game ball.
2nd down now and 4. Firing for Richardson.
And he got it.
He really was popped.
5-yard square out pattern.
Charlie West came down after being hit out of bounds. That is the completion.
The timing on these are so important. We've mentioned it many times. That type pattern is generally expected to be executed in less than a second and a half, less than 1.5 seconds. And Unitas is the master at it.
The Colts with the 1st and 10. They're on the Vikings' 38-yard line. Clock running at 9:54. Bulash struggling over the 35 to about the 34. And they are hitting here tonight. Winston is there. Gersbach is there. Pickup of about 3.5 to 4.
Got to give credit to Gersbach taking Warwick's place. An absolute unknown. Free agent pickup from Philadelphia. And here in Minnesota, they're very happy with the way he's performed.
On 2nd down, we'll call it 6. The ball at the 34. Bulash again. Bulash hit. Gersbach is there. Alan Page is there. Wow, and did they pop? Bulash. Still, the big second-year man picks up a yard, but leaving a 3rd and 5 as we look at Alan Page.
Number 88. It almost looks as if he's offside because he is quick. Look at him play off the block of Tom Matty and at the same time pick up Bulash to enable Gersbach to come in. That was Larson that came in late there, but primarily that was Page.
On the passing situation, the ball at the 34. Both wide receivers come left. Willie Richardson goes motion right. Unitas in a crowd. Fires the spot pass incomplete. Charlie West is there protecting.
Well, Bud Grant stayed with Charlie West this week, and he's playing himself quite a game, Don.
Certainly is, and now we got another field goal attempt coming up.
Jim O'Brien, who came into this game with 11 consecutive field goals, threatening the record of Jan Stenerud, who had 15. He missed his first attempt. This from the 40-yard line. It's high enough and it's good enough. From the 40-yard line, Jim O'Brien. And with timeout, the score is the Vikings 10, the Baltimore Colts 3.
Many good things come to us from the Caribbean, like music and sun and laughter. But it took Wolf Brothers to put the sun and rum flavor into a fine line of cigars. Wolf Brothers cigars are made of fine, rich tobaccos mellowed with sunny rum flavor. They come in many sizes and shapes, including the new mini tip, Wolf Brothers. Now that's what I call a delicious cigar.
This year, Firestone can stop you cold, start you cold, help you steer your way through winter weather. New Firestone asymmetrical town and country tires have an open traction section to help you start or stop. Center Z-bars for stability and mileage. Stable traction section to help your steering control. holds a third more ice-gripping studs than any tire we've made before. Firestone Asymmetrical Town and Country Tires at your Firestone dealer or store now.
Jim O'Brien, who has just brought the Colts 3 points closer. They now trail by but a touchdown and a conversion. Jim O'Brien to kick off. Deep are Clint Jones and Charlie West. Again, a critical game for both of these ball clubs. The Colts must win to stay with the Miami Dolphins, first place in their conference. The Vikings must win to stay one game ahead of the Lions and the Bears. 8 minutes and 45 seconds remain to be played. Dribbler that's handled by Charlie West. West build up, moving over the 30-yard line. Tom Curtis tripping up Charlie West. I'll tell you, the time that Baltimore has had moving the ball in this half, they've had 11 rushing attempts. They've ended up with a minus 3 yards. First and 10 now for the Vikings from their own 31-yard line. Again, a little over 8 minutes remain to be played. Osborne. Maybe a yard and a half. Vikings got on the scoreboard in the first period on a 2-yard touchdown run by Osborne to make it 7-0. No scoring at all in the second quarter. At halftime, it was 7-0 Minnesota. Although Baltimore had moved the football well in the first half, Cox came back to make it 10-0 with a 32-yard field goal in the third quarter. And you just saw Jim O'Brien hit from 40 yards out to bring it well within reach. 7 minutes and 40 seconds remain. Second down and 8. The Vikings moving from their own 32. Gary Quazzo going all the way. This time, holding his backs in, looking for the blitz. It'll be picked off. Logan. The pass attempt to John Hilton, who had tried to find that hole in the zone. Logan was there.
That's the first real Minnesota mistake. Now let's see.
From the end zone, we'll see Quazzo go back. He is throwing right through that one badly, and Logan reacted well, came back in, covering his area, and picked it off. Now Johnny Yu.
Directing it from inside the Vikings 50. Tom Matty gets the call.
He is in there. Here's Jim Marshall, also number 70. Page shed his blocker, came over. He and Jim Marshall were in great position there on Tom Matty.
Johnny Unitas now, 2nd and 10. He knows he'll have to put the football in the air.
And so does Minnesota.
The draw play. Wow, did they wipe that out?
Well, he didn't get our message, gentlemen.
Yeah. Maybe he should have. He lost another 3 yards on it. We'll see it again. Again, that's Page. It's tough, man, to call any kind of an offensive game plan when you can't control that front four. But again, we saw that Alan Page just is coming through like, heck, there's nobody going to be able to stop him. Glenn Ressler is certainly no slouch. He's a good guard. Page is having a pretty good night against him, however.
Johnny Unitas, and watch him come now, that front four of the Vikings. The ball at the Colts 47-yard line, 3rd down and 15, an end around. Tripped up.
Wally Hilgenberg.
Wow. John, that's pretty curious signal calling by John, wouldn't you say?
Well, it's a little bit different. He didn't put it in the air that time. He had put it in the air a couple of times in the series before and had picked up a first down. Again, I think it shows respect of the Minnesota defense. He knows they do play well. They do get a good rush out of that front four. Unfortunately, they didn't turn that mistake that Minnesota made into a scoring opportunity.
Dave Boulash was the man coming back on the reverse. On 4th down, David Lee will kick to Bobby Bryant and Charlie West. Oh, and he got off a beauty. They'll hope it goes into the end zone, but it will not.
Good play by Curtis.
Tom Curtis, who's playing fine football on the special teams. And now stand by for a special ABC News report from the United Nations covering the vote on the admission of Red China.
The United Nations voted tonight to expel nationalist China and to seat mainland China. The vote was 76 to 35 with 17 abstentions, more than a 2/3 majority. I repeat, The UN has voted to expel Nationalist China and to seat mainland China. The Nationalist Chinese delegation left the Assembly Hall before the vote. This ended a 21-year debate in the UN over which of the two Chinas was entitled to sit in the world body. It was a defeat for the United States. For the first time, this country had supported membership for the mainland Chinese. But the U.S. also fought long and vigorously to keep the nationalists in the General Assembly. This means depriving nationalist China of a place in the UN which it has held since the Charter was ratified 26 years ago yesterday. The vote means that a country of 14 million, bigger than more than half the UN member countries, is now barred from the international community. The action may stir anti-UN action in some circles of Congress, but it will certainly clear the air for President Nixon's coming visit to Peking. Now, for the first time, the People's Republic of China is publicly recognized as a major power by this world organization. I repeat, mainland China has been admitted to the United Nations and nationalist China has been expelled. This is John McVeigh, ABC News, United Nations.
We're back. The Vikings have a 1st and 10. They're moving from their own yard-and-a-half line. The Colts threatening the blitz. Hendricks steps in. They need the football. And on the bottom of the pile, Mike Curtis. He broke that thumb 4 weeks ago. He missed one football game. Let's look at him in action.
And he is a fine middle linebacker, Frank. Again, he's reading the backfield. As you mentioned, the Colts obviously are going to try to put more pressure on the Vikings in this situation because they don't want them to get out. Picked him up an offensive guard and that running back at the same time. That Curtis is a good one.
2nd down and 8. The ball at the 3.5-yard mark. Osborne. He fumbled the football, I believe. Did he get it back? Yes, he did.
That was Billy Newsome that came across there. Newsome's going to be a good one, too. A young man from Grambling College. That's right.
He is a big one, too. 6'5", 250.
His second year, I believe.
Now, Gary Quazzo, with a 7-point lead, has a 3rd down and 9. Time is moving with 4 minutes and 13 seconds. And Gary Quazzo uses all the time that he can in that huddle. Puts Bob Grimm out to the left. Denson is back in, replacing Washington. Setbacks, Oscar Reed, Dave Osborne. Stoops comes up. Running play, and he just did get out of the end zone, Oscar Reed. Woo-hoo. Roy Hilton was there as Oscar Reed just about gave up 2 points.
I think we should point out at this point that should Baltimore come on to tie this football game, they will then be in a tie with Miami for the Eastern Division lead in the American Football Conference.
All right, on 4th down, a tough situation for Bob Lee. He will not be able to kick from his spread punt formation. Therefore, they will not be able to cover this punt like they ordinarily would. They'll have to be very careful. It's not blocked. So they will not get good coverage. And Lee has not been kicking well tonight. Almost blocked. He gets an end-over-end kick. This is Curtis. Good field position. Tom Curtis moving back to the 22-yard line.
He made a good move there. He was actually all on his own because the Colts had decided to rush that kick and try to block it. We'll see it again from the end zone camera. There he goes. Rick Bolt gave him a little block to get him started. Moves out the outside. Maintained his balance and picked up a few more yards.
Johnny Unitas, who came on a series ago, directing the attack, 1st and 10 for the Colts. They have the ball at the 23. Tom Matty. Paulie Hilgenberg, and Matty will lose yardage.
On the last 4 plays that Baltimore has run, they've lost yardage.
Minnesota did something at halftime, Don. They have really closed out the Baltimore running game the whole second half.
You know,
John is going to have to put it in the air.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of times people expect a lot of things that happen in the halftime that don't. They're just playing good football. They're good football players.
On 2nd and 12, Willie Richardson goes out to the left, Hinton to the right. A quick little catch for Bulash is off the fingertips. Flag is down. That's the line of scrimmage. Or a flag is down downfield, and this could be a very important call. Minnesota offsides.
I thought that was Page from up here, but he gets off, as I mentioned, he gets off the line so quick it may not have been. Someone obviously moved or lined up offside there for Minnesota.
Baltimore, as we see the offsides indication, has lost 11 yards rushing in the second half on 15 attempts. Some kind of defense by Minnesota. Second down and 7. The ball resting on the 19-yard line. The clock moving. The clock stopped now with 2:29. Richardson right, and we get the draw call to Bulash. Bulash just over the line of scrimmage. Gary Larson, who roves along that line of scrimmage while Page and Eller and Marshall put the pressure on.
Field goal's not going to help them that much now. There's basically 2 minutes to go. Third down situation. I would be very surprised if he doesn't put this one in the air. And that's a 2-minute warning, I believe.
That'll be the 2-minute warning. And with timeout, the score. The Minnesota Vikings 10, the Baltimore Colts 3.
Hi, I'm one of the country's leading bachelors, and I'd like to show you my pad. This is my den. Hello, darling. It features this Panasonic stereo that records 8-track cartridges. I love it a lot. In the game room, I love to play around with this Panasonic stereo. It swings. Something's always cooking in my kitchen to the music of my Panasonic stereo radio. In my studio, this Panasonic can play AM, FM, records, 8-track, and cassette. Welcome to my private concert hall with Quadrasonic, Panasonic's new 4-channel music system. Each speaker plays a different part, like horns, bass, guitar, and drums. It's like sitting in the middle of an orchestra. What's the secret to my success? My personality.
Panasonic, just slightly ahead of our time.
Third down and 6. 2 minutes remain to be played. The Colts have the ball. They're on the Vikings' 17-yard line. The receivers are John Mackey, the big tight end, for Johnny Unitas, who must put the ball in the air. He's had no success with those draw plays he's been calling. Eddie Hinton is one wide receiver, and Willie Richardson going to the right is the other. Hinton left, Richardson right. Mackey, the tight end, is opened up on the right side. John fires to Richardson. Richardson at the 10, yardage enough for the first down.
It looks as if Richardson on this down and in came through. The ball was right on target. That is not exactly the kind of pattern that you would expect in this situation, except for the zone is not that important down here because they really can't get that deep anyway. So it does put pressure on the Viking defense. They can't roll. This containment that we've been talking about all night, and they can't contain them much longer. They're down on the 10-yard line. So we'll see either a tighter zone or possibly a man-to-man coverage. Now, this is an area that most zone teams are weakest in because they don't practice against or they don't practice using the man-to-man coverage that much. We were all up here a while ago second-guessing Unitas and what he should be doing. I guess this is what a lot of folks do at quarterbacks or at home all the time. But certainly he knows what he's doing. I'd like to think that he does because he's been there a long time and it's his offense, it's his team, and he's talking to his coach right now.
You know, Don, you made a very important point. Zone teams do not really work on man for man. And, of course, most teams now in pro football are going to the zone. But when they get inside the 20, they generally leave the zone and go man for man, and it becomes very difficult. One of the men considered weak on man-to-man coverage is Ed Schrockman, the right cornerback. And we will see what Johnny Unitas has discussed with head coach McCafferty. 1 minute and 49 seconds remain to be played in this football game. The Colts trail by a touchdown and a conversion. Unitas draws Alan Page, Gary Larson. And when these purple people eaters unload, they unload.
They do for a fact. It appeared to me that Unitas had called a play going to his right. He had set his formation to this left side, and as we did mention, they did not go into the zone. They were in man-to-man coverage. He was either going to Mackey on the other side. I can't really, no matter who he was going to, I don't think he could see him. There were too many purple jerseys in there. So let's watch it again. 1 minute and 30 to go.
From the 15, the clock moving, 1 minute 25. The reverse to Richardson. Dan Sullivan with a fine block, but Richardson is tripped up. Good defensive play by Carl Eller.
Great play by Eller, Frank. They had this one set up going well. If they could have gotten by Eller, they would have been either in the end zone or very close to it. again a running play, and again that clock is still moving. We're in a third down situation. Now they're back to about the 12. So we're getting pretty close to that do-or-die play for the Baltimore Colts.
We're down to a minute left to play.
And if you're wondering why he doesn't take timeout, Unitas has a third down. He only has 2 downs remaining. Hinton goes left. Richardson right. Dumps it off to Bulash. Bulash battling inside the 5 to the 3-yard line.
There'll be his timeout.
42 seconds left to play. About 2.5 yards to go.
What a football game.
It's turned out to be a great one. 2 quality football teams.
The short yardage defense comes in as Bulash comes up short of the first down. The ball at about the 2.5-yard line.
I don't believe they can make a first down, Frank. I think they started this one from
It looks to me
here.
like about 6 inches.
Yeah, maybe they could, and it'd be awful
they
close.
They can make a first down, Don.
As I said, they can make a first down in this situation. It's going to be awful close. That marker looks pretty close to the 10-yard line. I think the thing they're worried about right now is that touchdown and how they're going to get in there.
I'll tell you, we'll repeat again. They have lost 11 yards rushing here in the second half, the Baltimore Colts.
You talk about a tough call, man. It's 4th down. You know, you're not going to get that ball back. You're 7 points behind. You're running against the Minnesota Vikings, and if they're not the best defensive team,
all right, what do you
right
call?
among them. I call timeout and go over and talk to the coach. Say, look here, coach. What do you do now?
Then after the game, you go into the locker room and say, the coach's call.
Well, many times I'd like to do that.
Unitas comes back on the field. He's been calling these for 16 years. Just a friendly little discussion, I'm sure, with head coach Don McCafferty, who is a pretty cool cookie himself. A first down can be made at about the 6-inch line. 42 seconds remain to be played. Baltimore has 1 timeout.
I think he'll run a rollout.
In and out of the hands, incomplete.
This ball will be brought back to the 20-yard line. A 4th down attempt inside the 20. Ball thrown in the end zone. Goes over to the other team. It's called a touchback. One of the rules of the game. Brought back to the 20.
And these fans, I tell you, are as alive. Look at them standing here, waving up to the booth, asking us to tell the country that, yes, the Vikings are on their way. They really believe that this is their year for the Super Bowl after the frustration against San Francisco last year and the loss to Kansas City 2 years ago. Maybe so. It's a long season. But 2 fine teams meeting each other, and Minnesota capitalizing on its opportunistic play in the very first half when Baltimore had the chances and made the mistakes.
Down we go, killing the clock, which has 35 seconds remaining to be played.
Play Unitas had called on that 4th down situation was a rollout. He tried to flood the right zone with his backs. He was trying to hit the end that came over his tight end, actually, that came across the middle. I couldn't tell really whether it was underthrown or whether it was covered. It was a little bit low. It was obviously incomplete.
I'll say now the Baltimore Colts are out of timeouts. They've used them all. With 1 play, Gary Quazzo should be able to run the clock out. What a hard-hitting football game we've had tonight. Take nothing away from the Baltimore Colts. They are a strong football club. First man will go for the runner, which will probably be Quazzo. Someone will try and pull the ball out, and it won't happen. Clock moving. No timeouts for Baltimore. Baltimore is going to fall behind the Miami Dolphins in the Eastern Division of the American Football Conference. And these fans are going absolutely insane here in Minnesota. They'll let it run out. Bud Grant, what a fine job he's done with this football team, looking for his 4th divisional title. Johnny Unitas, who almost did it, his last pass in and out of the hands of Eddie Hinton, could just as well have been caught. And the final score is the Minnesota Vikings 10, the Baltimore Colts 3. And we'll return to Metropolitan Stadium in just a moment.
We have all kinds of cars in our family, but we all use Sunoco. Because only Sunoco puts 260, highest octane gasoline at any station, into every gallon from regular up. You take Cousin Tex in his big car. This here baby needs premium, and only Sunoco has some of that highest octane 260 blended right in.
My car runs on regular, and only Sunoco regular's got 260 in it.
Now, my car needs more octane than regular, and only Sunoco has a middle premium with 260 action. More octane than regular, costs less than premium. There's a great gasoline for everyone at Sunoco's custom blending pump. It blends some 260 into every gallon of premium, middle premiums, even regular. So if you want performance for your car, join the gang at Sunoco.
Howdy, Cuz. Oh, nice to see you.
Get Sunoco 260 Action. Action to be used, not abused.
This was the Baltimore Colts' final shot at tying this football game up. Eddie Hinton, the wide receiver, number 33, Johnny Unitas on a 4th and 3 situation, rolling slightly. Boulash with a good block on the blitzing Winston, in and out of the hands of